Chapter 3754. Chu Li bid farewell to Prince Bao and returned to Shao Qi's side. What happened? Shao Shi covered her face with a white veil and stared at him with her deep, bright eyes. Chu Li shook his head. You'll know when you get back. It's better not to say. Xiao San. Lung Tao, who had been listening attentively, raised his voice and shouted. Imperial Crown Prince. Xiao San was following behind the protectors of King An's imperial residence and was only 10 steps away. When he heard Lung Tao's call, Xiao San quickly went forward and fist saluted. Imperial Crown Prince, what can I do for you? What happened in the town? Lung Tao scoffed. Xiao San was meticulous and knew how to serve people. He was exceptionally quick-witted and would do everything even without being instructed. He was very useful. Xiao San looked around and seemed to be in a difficult position. There are no outsiders here. Just say it. Lung Tao scoffed. Xiao San lowered his voice. I heard that Consort Ping was assassinated. Chu Li looked at Lung Tao helplessly. Lung Tao cried out, Fourth An is dead? Yes. Xiao San nodded. How is that possible? Lung Tao was in disbelief. The protectors of King Ping's imperial residence were very strict. The protectors were all experienced generals, and they were better than martial arts masters when it came to killing people. Yet, they could not protect Consort Ping, and she was killed. Xiao San lowered his voice. That's what the news says. Lung Tao looked at Chu Li. Head Chief Chu, is it true? Chu Li looked at the ladies whose expressions had changed. Why do you have to say this? It'll affect everyone's mood. Who the F***CK still has the mood? Lung Tao shouted. Chu Li said impatiently, she's dead, but we still have to live our lives. People die every moment in this world. So, she's really dead? Lung Tao asked. Chu Li nodded. Dead. Lung Tao mumbled in disbelief. Dead. He had always thought that he was far away from death, since he was the descendant of the emperor. Consort Ping's death was like a flood that rushed toward him. It turned out that death was so close to him. Xiao Shi sat on the horse lazily and said, It's just an assassination. Look at you. Lung Xiao and Lung Qing were in a daze at first, but when they heard Xiao Shi's clear voice, they snapped back to reality. It was not the first time that the consort had been assassinated, but she was still alive and well. Therefore, assassinations are not that scary. The guards of the prince's mansion were strong enough. Lung Tao raised his head to take a look and met Xiao Shi's deep and bright eyes. He blushed and turned his head away. Xiao Shi turned her head towards Chu Li, who did it. Chu Li said, I can't say for sure now. I'm still investigating. How dare you? Aren't you afraid of King Ping's revenge? I know, right? Xiao Shi looked at his perfunctory expression. It was obvious that he did not want to talk about it. She rolled her eyes at him and did not ask anymore. Chu Li and Prince Bao stood on top of the tower. He gazed at the distant battle between the cavalrymen on the prairie. Before Lung Tao could come back to his senses, a small mistake was seized by his opponent, and he was utterly defeated. Prince Bao could not stop shaking his head as he watched. Footsteps were heard. A protector in black went up the tower and went up the stairs. He was a secret guardian from the secret guardian's hall. Chu Li turned to look at him. Qi Meng. Centurion Chu, this is a letter from Commander Su. Qi Meng handed over a letter with both hands. Chu Li took it. Thank you. Qi Meng took a step back. Chu Li quickly scanned the letter and passed it to Prince Bao. Prince Bao's face darkened after he read it. It's them. Chu Li took the letter and gently rubbed it into powder. He sighed. I didn't expect it to be them. He turned to look at Qi Meng. Thank you for your trouble. Tell Commander Su that I know. Qi Meng, don't let anyone know that you're sending me a letter. There was never this letter. You're here because Commander Su summoned me back. Yes. Qi Meng fist saluted and retreated to the staircase. He then turned around and went down the stairs, riding his horse and galloping away. Both of them held onto the exquisite railing that was carved with flowers and plants. They looked at the prairie in silence. Gusts of wind blew. Prince Bao's purple robe and Chu Li's white robe fluttered. After a while, Prince Bao said, Do you think the emperor will hide this news from King Ping? How can we guess the emperor's thoughts? Chu Li shook his head. But from what I can see, the emperor doesn't plan to fight on two fronts. It's already hard enough to deal with the Li dynasty. If another war breaks out, the nation's strength won't be enough. In the end, yes. Prince Bao sighed and shook his head. It'll be hard on King Ping. If the emperor hides this from King Ping, he's afraid that the father and son will turn against each other. Chu Li frowned and said, only the three of us know the truth now. Including the emperor, there are only four of us. If King Ping finds out one day, we won't be able to escape responsibility. No one knows if the emperor will vent his anger on us. I'll advise my brother to be honest with King Ping. Prince Bao nodded. Even if the emperor did not vent his anger on him, he would lose the emperor's favor. The consequences would be severe, so he had a nip in the bud. Chu Li, you should enter the imperial court and become an official. You'll definitely rise to a high position. Prince Bao smiled. Chu Li was meticulous and sharp. He could always predict danger in advance and eliminate it. If he entered the imperial court, he would be like a fish in water. Chu Li smiled. I'm just a martial artist. How can I become an official in the imperial court? I prefer to be free and unfettered. Prince Bao nodded. That's true. Once you become an official, you'll be tied to a rope. Now that the Li dynasty and the Qiu dynasty are going to fight, do you think we should take advantage of the situation and teach the Li dynasty a lesson? I think we should fight, but we don't have to fight too fiercely. It'll be enough to distract some of the troops so that the Li dynasty won't be able to focus on the Qiu dynasty. Won't that benefit the Qiu dynasty? If we don't fight, the Li dynasty will benefit. We have to choose the lesser of two evils. The Li dynasty is no match for the Qiu dynasty. Even if we don't take advantage of them, they'll still lose. They might even be destroyed by the Qiu dynasty. Your Royal Highness, don't forget about the Fu dynasty. Chu Li shook his head. They won't allow the Qiu dynasty to destroy the Li dynasty. The Fu dynasty. Prince Bao gritted his teeth and scoffed. They're just **T stirs. Chu Li smiled and nodded. The Fu dynasty regarded themselves as the leader of all the countries. In order to prevent the other four countries from challenging their position, they have been sowing discord and not allowing two neighboring countries to have a harmonious relationship. Otherwise, they would not be able to sit still. Once two or even three countries joined forces, the Fu dynasty would not be able to withstand it no matter how strong they were. Even if they could win, their vitality would be greatly damaged and the losses would outweigh the gains. Prince Bao sighed. This is the sorrow of a weak country. However, we don't have to worry about these things. Let the emperor worry about it. We'll just listen to his orders. Chu Li nodded. Given their status, they could not decide these things, so they could only talk about it. When the hunting ceremony ended and Chu Li and the others returned to King An's imperial residence, everyone in the city knew that Consort Ping had been assassinated. Everyone was anxious. If Consort Ping could be assassinated, who would be safe? On the other hand, King An's imperial residence was as stable as usual. They had experienced many assassinations. Whether it was the various martial arts sects of the Ji dynasty or the Li dynasty's Holy Church of Light, they had all come to King An's imperial residence, but none of them had succeeded. After lunch, Chu Li was talking to Shao Qi and Xiao Shi in Tianshu courtyard. He told Xiao Shi about Consort Ping's assassination and how a few protectors had committed suicide, which made Xiao Shi feel rather pained. Suddenly, Zhu Tianhua's voice was heard from outside. Head Chief, there's a protector with the surname Qi who wishes to see you. Let him in, Chu Li said. A moment later, Qi Meng, who was dressed in black, strode in and gave a fist salute. Greetings, Centurion. Chu Li waved a hand. What's the matter? Qi Meng looked around. Chapter 3755. He closed fists saluted Shao Qi and Xiao Shi. The two ladies waved their hands. He brought Qi Meng to his courtyard. Lung Xiu and Lung Qing participated in the hunting ceremony and went back to rest. There was no one in the courtyard, and it was very quiet. Speak. Chu Li turned to face Qi Meng. Commander Su has left the fairy's capital. Before he left, he told me to tell the Centurion that I will follow you from now on. Qi Meng looked around and lowered his voice. Chu Li frowned. Left the fairy's capital? Yes, to guard the imperial mausoleum. Qi Meng nodded. Chu Li's face darkened. What else did Commander Su say? Chi Meng shook his head. He didn't say anything else. He just told me to inform the Centurion that you will understand. You'll be in the May Air courtyard from now on. Where's the commander? Chuli nodded. The commander seems to have gone out for something and hasn't returned. Commander Su didn't tell anyone and left quietly. He only told me to inform the Centurion, Chi Meng said. Chu Li's expression calmed down. I understand. Chi Meng said. Commander Su also told me not to tell anyone that I went to deliver the letter. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. There's no need. Since the Emperor was so careful, he wouldn't care whether or not Commander Su wrote a letter to him. Since there was a connection, he would conclude that he knew about this matter. However, he might not make a move against him. It was enough to use Commander Su to warn him. Chi Meng said, Don't worry, Centurion. I won't tell anyone. Be careful. If word gets out that Commander Su went to guard the Imperial Mausoleum, you'll lose your life. Chuli said, Go. Yes. Chi Meng's expression changed. He closed fists, saluted, and left. Chuli slowly walked to Tianshu courtyard. Xiao Shi looked at him with concern. Xiao Qi's eyes were calm, but she stared at him. What happened? Xiao Shi asked. After Chu Li explained the situation, both women's faces darkened. Xiao Shi frowned. Why don't you pretend to be sick and say that you went astray during cultivation? You need to cultivate in isolation to recuperate. It won't work. Xiao Qi said, Just act like usual. Don't say anything or you'll feel guilty. I'm worried about Commander Su. Chu Li shook his head. The Emperor will silence them? Xiao Shi frowned. Chu Li said, Who knows? I really don't understand the Emperor's temperament. No, Xiao Qi replied. This is too disappointing. After all, Commander Su isn't an ordinary secret guardian. I hope so. Chu Li sighed. The tree of life and death appeared once again. The heavenly demonic orb hung on its branches and slowly disappeared along with the tree. All of his inner energy had disappeared and dispersed outside his body. Then, the inner energy of the divine light technique began to rise inside his body. He had recovered about half of it. The next moment, he appeared outside Gale City. As the sun set, he stepped into the East City Gate and slowly walked along the bustling street to the Radiance Clan. The two huge stone lions in front of the Radiance Clan were lifelike. Their imposing manner deterred people from approaching them. Two strong guards stood side by side with the huge stone lion, their eyes sharp and fierce. When Chuli arrived at the bottom of the stairs, two protectors stepped forward and stared at him. Unauthorized personnel, please step back. Do not come any closer. Chuli took out a metal tag from his pocket and showed it to the guard. The two protectors were stunned and quickly gave him a fist salute. Please wait for a moment. I'll go in and inform you. When Chuli first built the Radiance Clan, he had made this metal tag. The word Radiance was written on one side of the tag, and the word Zhao was written on the other. Anyone who held this tag was an important guest of the Radiance Clan and should not be neglected. Ko Cheong hurried out and gave him a fist salute. Young master, you're finally here. Chu Li waved his hand to indicate that there was no need to be so polite and entered the main door. Ko Cheong humbly bowed and followed behind him, which shocked the two protectors. Ko Cheong knew that Chu Li did not like to be ostentatious and kept a low profile, so he led him to the main hall and personally served him a cup of tea. Young master, if you didn't come, we'd have to ask you for help. These people are too much. Chu Li frowned. From the Flaming Sun sect? It's those B** stars. Ko Cheong said angrily. They're robbing our people. As long as we recruit someone, they'll immediately poach him. Is there no way to deal with them? We can't possibly go against them, can we? We're weak and can't overpower them, Ko Cheong said. Chu Li asked, What about the other two sects? The White Tiger sect is quite obedient, and the Tian Luo sect is good too. It's just that the Flaming Sun sect is disgusting. Ko Cheong said angrily. They refuse to fall out with us. Lu Xiaofeng even came over to explain that they're also short of people and that we should compete fairly. Chu Li slowly nodded. All right, it's fine if we can't recruit anyone. Ko Cheong was surprised. Young master, are you just passing by or are you going to stay here? I'm staying here. Chu Li scoffed. The saint sent me here for a while. I'm going to cultivate in isolation, so don't disturb me if there's nothing important. That's good news. Ko Cheong clapped his hands excitedly. Chu Li glared at him coldly. Ko Cheong quickly chuckled. Now we have a backbone. With young master around, we have nothing to fear. We couldn't defeat the Flaming Sun sect previously, so we could only bear with it. This time, if they dare to cause trouble again, we'll show them what we're made of. From today onwards, the Radiance clan will be changed to Gale Branch, Chu Li said. We won't recruit anyone below perfected innate mastery. Quality over quantity. Yes. Ko Cheong nodded excitedly. Chu Li waved his hand. Hurry up and find me a place to cultivate in isolation and prepare a table of good dishes. All right. Ko Cheong energetically summoned a young man and instructed him. The two arrived at an elegant courtyard that was only 3 residences away from the Radiance clan. They could reach it in the blink of an eye. This is our original residence. Ko Cheong smiled. Young master, are you satisfied with it? It's all right. Chu Li nodded. This is it. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. If I'm not here, I'm just going out for a stroll. Don't make a fuss. Yes, yes. Ko Cheong quickly nodded. He finally understood that young master had been sent away to live a carefree life with no one to care about him. Soon, a table of dishes was served. Chu Li could tell at a glance that it was the work of the 9-star tower's chef. He nodded in satisfaction. Ko Cheong was the best at this. As he lowered his head to eat, he suddenly looked up. Li Ruolin floated down from the courtyard wall. Her green gown fluttered in the wind, and the white veil on her face swayed slightly. Chu Li looked at her in surprise. Senior sister, you're here so soon? I'm here to give you something. Li Ruolin scoffed. She took out a jade flute from her sleeve and gently blew it. Instantly, 3 flute sounds were heard. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and a pigeon-like bird descended from the sky. It was snow-white and flawless, and its eyes were lively. It stood on Li Ruolin's shoulder and stared at Chu Li curiously. This is a sky patrol pigeon. You can use it to communicate with the Church of Light, Li Ruolin said. The saint will send a letter directly if she has any instructions. Sky patrol pigeon. Chu Li studied the bird and smiled. How's it taste? If you dare to hurt it, you'll be chased out of the Great Light Peak. Li Ruolin scoffed. Chu Li nodded. All right, I'll treat it like a treasure. Chapter 3756. P.S. Update completed. My fingernails don't hurt as much anymore. Li Ruolin scoffed. You really have to treat it like a treasure. It's incredibly fast, much faster than our light body technique. How long will it take to send a message to the Great Light Peak? Chu Li asked. It'll take half a day, Li Ruolin replied. Chu Li was shocked. Li Ruolin said, humans are far inferior to these beasts when it comes to physical gifts. That's true. Chu Li brought an armchair over and gestured for her to sit. Li Ruolin gracefully sat on the armchair. Her movements were graceful and graceful. Are you able to stay here? Very well. Chu Li nodded. Look at how carefree I am. I don't have to worry about anything with someone serving me. I just have to focus on cultivating in isolation. It won't take long for me to recover my martial arts. Don't cause any more trouble here. Li Ruolin frowned. The atmosphere in the church is very tense now. Something happened. Chu Li was surprised. What happened? Li Ruolin shook her head. A senior brother from the 4th Peak sneaked into the Ji Dynasty's fairies' capital and assassinated Consort Ping. Chu Li frowned. Assassinated? Yes. Li Ruolin said slowly. The saint has lost her temper because of this matter, but everyone doesn't understand. They think it's okay to kill King Ping's concubine. Although it's not very honorable, King Ping has killed so many people from the Li dynasty. Chu Li scoffed and pouted. It's indeed not honorable. If you're so capable, go assassinate King Ping. What's the point of killing a woman who doesn't know martial arts? Moreover, we haven't even dealt with the Li dynasty yet, and now we're provoking the Ji dynasty. Isn't that asking for trouble? Are they helping or framing us? You're thinking too much, Li Ruolin said snappily. Don't talk nonsense. Chu Li replied. Why can't I tell the truth? Could it be that this fellow was someone with a great background? He deserves to die for doing such a thing. He's from the fourth peak and has a high cultivation level. Li Rulin shook her head. He's also an outer mountain disciple, just like you. Chu Li frowned. Li Rulin said, that's why everyone is once again rejecting the outer mountain disciples. They're all suggesting to the saint that they want to reduce the quota of outer mountain disciples. If it wasn't for the saint's high prestige, everyone would have forced the saint to cancel the quota of outer mountain disciples a long time ago. The outer mountain disciples are indeed unreliable. They don't know their background and are prone to accidents. Chu Li nodded. What everyone said makes sense. Li Rulin looked at him in surprise. Chu Li asked, why are you looking at me? This doesn't sound like something you'd say, Li Rulin said. Zhao Dai had always been arrogant and looked down on everyone. He looked down on these disciples from the Great Light Peak, so she found it strange that he was suddenly praising them. Chu Li said, I'm just telling the truth. Li Rulin sighed and said, the saint is very angry now. If I really cause trouble, the consequences will be unimaginable. With the saint around, who would dare to cause trouble? Chu Li curled his lips disapprovingly. What's wrong with that guy? Why does he have to court death? Is he dead? He has already entered the great light surpassing state. Li Rulin shook her head and said, only those who have the determination to die can finally enter the great light surpassing state. Then the Ji dynasty is going to attack, right? Can King Ping hold back? Chu Li said, it's going to be another big battle. Li Rulin nodded gently. It'll be very troublesome. Chu Li said, let's fight. Are we going to beg the Ji dynasty not to fight? We can't win. Li Rulin shook her head. It's already very difficult to fight the Li dynasty. We've already sent out all the people from a church. If the Ji dynasty joins in the fun, we'll definitely lose. Chu Li said disapprovingly. What should we do then? We can only think of a way to assassinate King Ping. Li Rulin sighed and said, the saint has been planning this for the past 2 days. Assassinate King Ping? Chu Li shook his head and laughed. If it's really possible to assassinate King Ping, it would have been done long ago. The last time we tried to assassinate him, it was ruined by Chu Li. Li Rulin scoffed and said, this Chu Li is a genius at such a young age. He's meticulous and sharp. He's a great enemy of the church. Isn't that easy? Chu Li curled his lips and said, we'll just kill him as well. Can't we kill Chu Li after assassinating King Ping? He said his own name calmly, as if he was talking about a stranger. Do you know who Chu Li is? Li Rulin scoffed and said, assassinate him? We'll be lucky if he doesn't assassinate us. Chu Li asked, what kind of great person is he? Li Rulin scoffed and said, the centurion of the Ji dynasty's secret guardians hall, the head chief of King An's imperial residence, the chief of the public house's glories will courtyard. In short, he's an extremely powerful person. Not only is he highly intelligent, but he's also highly skilled in martial arts. It's not that we haven't tried to assassinate him. It's just that we can't. I don't believe it. The church has so many martial arts masters. How can we not kill a young martial arts master? Chu Li shook his head. There aren't that many martial arts masters who actually leave the mountain. Li Rulin said, almost all the disciples above the 4 peaks don't leave the mountain anymore. Why? Chu Li asked. Li Rulin said, those who leave the mountain before turning 100 years old will never leave the mountain again. This is an established rule. There's such a rule? Chu Li was surprised. Li Rulin said, look at the world now. How many martial arts masters are over 100 years old? They've all gone into seclusion to cultivate. Those who walk the martial arts world are all martial arts masters below 100 years old. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. Also, after this incident, you won't be in a good situation. Because I'm an outer mountain disciple? Yes, Li Rulin said sternly. Your background will make it harder for you to advance. Moreover, the saint has the intention to train you. Don't think about advancing in a short period of time. Focus on cultivating your martial arts. That's great. I want to take a break too. It's okay to take a break, but don't delay your cultivation. Martial arts is the foundation of everything. If we fight with the Ji dynasty again, you might have a chance. Chu Li said lazily. Then I hope the Ji dynasty dares to make a move. They seem to be afraid of us. They won't dare to take the initiative to attack. They're not powerful enough. Of course, they won't dare to make a move. Li Rulin scoffed. If they surpass us in terms of strength, they would have attacked long ago. I'm leaving. If there's any news, send the pigeon to me. It will look for me directly. All right. Chuli nodded. It's idle anyway. I'll write to you when I'm free. Li Rulin rolled her eyes at him. Then, she turned and fluttered out of the house. She disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chuli sat on the armchair and sized up the pigeon. It was also sizing him up. Chuli could read its mind. He poured a glass of wine and passed it to it. The pigeon lowered its head and took a sip. Soon, it finished the glass of wine. Then, it let out a clear chirp. It spread its long wings and flew out of the house. It chirped in the sky and flew into the sky. It looked like a pigeon standing on the table. Once it spread its wings, it looked like an eagle. With its long wings and powerful flapping, it was naturally fast. It was not surprising that it could fly back and forth in half a day. After Chu Li finished his meal, Ko Qiong ordered someone to clean up the table and left. Chapter 37:57. After thinking for a while, he suddenly disappeared from the bed and appeared in his own room in the imperial residence of Kingen. He sat on the bed and began to cultivate. For the time being, there was no need to worry about Gale City. Ko Qiong and the others were his trusted subordinates. Even if there were any abnormalities, they would not say anything and would turn a blind eye to it. Moreover, he had already informed them in advance. Moreover, Gale City was very stable. The four sects were busy dealing with the martial arts world of the Great Li dynasty and did not have the time to cause trouble. Stability was the priority, so there was nothing to worry about. He had complete freedom in Gale City and could return to King An's imperial residence at any time. After a night of cultivation, he did not make any progress. His current cultivation level was profound, so a night of cultivation would not make much progress. The next morning, Lung Xiao and Lung Qing came over early to practice their swordsmanship. Chu Li also practiced his swordsmanship, the less ultimate sword. The secret of the less ultimate sword was that it had no weaknesses. Logically speaking, there was no such thing as a flawless sword technique in the world. Every sword technique had its flaws. As the saying goes, flawless. Only heavenly clothes could be flawless, and it was even more impossible for sword techniques to be flawless. It all depended on whether one could make use of their strengths and avoid their weaknesses. However, the lesser ultimate sword technique was different. It was different from other sword techniques. It was a truly simple and exquisite sword technique. The sword momentum was continuous and circular, just like the Taiji sword technique he had seen in his previous life. However, the lesser ultimate sword art was not soft. Not only did it not focus on gentleness, it was also extremely fast. It was as if drawing a circle would make the sword move even faster. It was as if using a centrifugal force to accelerate the sword. It was extremely mysterious. Chu Li was very interested in this set of less ultimate sword. He felt that it was extremely mysterious and contained the mysteries of heaven and earth. He needed to study it carefully and integrate it into the 7 forms of godly sword. However, this sword technique was exquisite, and it wasn't something that could be comprehended in a short period of time. Even someone as smart as him had to carefully analyze many areas. As he was practicing his swordsmanship, a knock came from the door. "Centurion, it's me, Yang Zongwen. Come in." Chu Li stopped wielding his sword. Yang Zongwen pushed open the door and entered the courtyard. His figure was tall and slender, and he still looked refined. He cupped his fists and greeted Centurion. He cupped his fists and bowed to the 2 girls who were practicing their swords. Chu Li waved his hand and pointed at the stone table. Then he sat down. Yang Zongwen sat opposite him. Chu Li asked, "Why are you here so early? Is there something urgent?" "Yes," Yang Zongwen said. "Commander Su resigned from his position as the deputy commander due to his guilt over the assassination of Princess Consort Ping and asked to guard the imperial mausoleum on his own." "I already know." Chu Li nodded. Yesterday, a new deputy commander arrived. Chu frowned. So soon, it was as if he couldn't wait to take over. Yang Zongwen shook his head and sighed. This new deputy commander is really... Chu asked what happened. Yang Zongwen frowned. He seems to be hostile towards our May Air courtyard. He said that he wants the Centurion to meet him tomorrow. Where did he come from? His name is Gu Yu. He used to be a protector of the imperial house. His cultivation level is very high and he's overbearing. Yang Zongwen said. It feels like he's more like commander than commander. Commander seems to be afraid of him and listens to him for everything. Looks like he has a strong background. Chu nodded. He's a descendant of a family of generals. His father was a general, but he died on the battlefield. That's why the emperor thinks highly of him. He's been serving in the imperial palace and is considered quite a popular person. No wonder. He's young and impetuous. He's already 63 years old. He's been sent out to train, and his methods are very forceful. Chu nodded. Yang Zongwen said. He said that our May Air courtyard is too idle. Centurion, you don't look like a centurion. Chu smiled faintly. Looks like he's going to make an example out of me. That seems to be the case. Yang Zongwen's expression was solemn. May Air courtyard is in the limelight. He has to take us down to intimidate the other courtyards. We'll have to see what he's capable of, Chu said. Yang Zongwen quickly asked, Centurion, what do you want to do? Since he said so, I'll pay him a visit tomorrow, Chu said. It's best if you don't meet him. Yang Zongwen sighed. The Centurion was stubborn and would rather break than bend. Commander Gu was the same. If the two of them were to meet, there would definitely be a violent conflict. However, it would not be appropriate to avoid meeting him. The Centurion would think that the Centurion was looking down on him. Initially, there was still room for negotiation. Now that it had become a direct confrontation, it would be even more difficult. After all, he was the deputy commander. Chu said, If I don't meet him, he'll definitely deal with you. There's nothing for us to be afraid of, Yang Zongwen said. We're not doing anything anyway. We'll just get through this. Chu shook his head and laughed. We haven't even met yet. How can we just go and meet him? It's not like he's the emperor. There's nothing we can do. Yang Zongwen scoffed. He thinks we're weak? Are we supposed to just let him do whatever he wants? He's the deputy commander. Doesn't the commander have to beg you, Centurion? Chu laughed. You're more arrogant than I am. We're the Centurion's men. Yang Zongwen smiled. But Centurion, are the results of the assassination of Consort Ping out yet? Chu shook his head. I've only captured her. I don't know what the results are. Don't you know the rules of the Secret Guardians Hall? Don't ask about things that you shouldn't. It won't do you any good. Yes, Yang Zongwen replied solemnly. He immediately understood that this was not a trivial matter and that it was very dangerous. Chu waved his hand. Go. Tell the others not to bully the new deputy commander. They have the right to be arrogant. Commander, you're new here, so it's best not to offend them. I'd like to see how arrogant he is. Gu said. How long has it been since he came to the Secret Guardians Hall? Oh, about half a year. Liang said. Gu sneered. Isolated cultivation sure is relaxing. Commander Gu, Centurion Chu has arrived at May Air Courtyard. A report came from outside. Ask him to come see me. Gu scoffed. Liang quickly said, Commander Gu, I'll go see him myself. Chapter 3758. P.S. The 33rd Alliance leader is born, Huan Yizhong. P.S. I wanted to add more chapters today, but the more I wanted to write, the more I couldn't. My head hurts. When Liang arrived at May Air Courtyard, he saw Chu drinking tea at the stone table in the courtyard. There were some files on the stone table. He was drinking tea while reading the files with a focused expression. Yang Zongwen stood at the side to serve him. The rest of the people were practicing on the martial arts field. It was bustling with noise, and laughter could be heard from time to time. The May Air Courtyard had the most grandmasters, and this was publicly acknowledged by all the secret guardians. Moreover, these grandmasters were extremely loyal to Chu. After all, they were all saved by Chu, and he had given them a new lease on life. Liang sighed to himself. This kind of luck was something that no one could be envious of. If he had so many grandmasters supporting him, He could also do whatever he wanted in the secret guardian's hall. No one would care about him, and he could do whatever he wanted. Brother. Yang Zongwen fist saluted. Chu Li looked up. Greetings, Centurion Chu. Liang fist saluted and smiled. It's been a while. Centurion Chu, you look better than before. Congratulations. What's the matter? Chu Li nodded. Liang said, Commander Gu wants to see you. Sit down and talk. Chu Li pointed at the stone bench opposite him. Liang was helpless. He could only sit opposite him and move his butt uncomfortably. Chu Li's eyes were bright, as if he could see through his thoughts. Your May Air Courtyard Shore is free. Liang smiled. I really admire you. You can come to May Air Courtyard too. Chu Li said. Liang shook his head. I don't have such luck. Chu Li said, What does this new Commander Gu want? Idle. May Air Courtyard is too quiet. Liang said happily. I think it's a waste. There are so many grandmasters who only eat and don't work. How can I get used to it? He doesn't know about the situation in May Air Courtyard. Chu Li asked. Liang said, I've said it before. A new leader brings his own ministers. He's new, so he wants to change the rules. He's eager to make everyone listen to him. Chu Li pondered. He wants to make May Air Courtyard move? Yes. Liang nodded. Chu Li asked, Is there anything else? He's also very curious about you, the famous Chief Steward Chu. Liang smiled. Chu Li nodded. All right then, I'll go and pay my respects. Liang cupped his fists and smiled. Please. He knew how powerful Chu Li was because he had personally witnessed Chu Li's rapid rise from a secret guardian who was ostracized to a centurion in less than a year. Therefore, no matter who became a commander or a deputy commander, they would not be able to suppress Centurion Chu. Yang Zongwen looked at Chu Li worriedly. Chu Li waved his hand. It's not like it's a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. It's just a meeting. Then be careful, Centurion, Yang Zongwen said. Chu Li smiled. Follow? Liang arrived at the main hall. In the main hall, Guyu was deep in thought as he read the dossier. These files were all about the cases that Chu Li had solved. Chu Li's abilities were top secret, and there were no traces left on them. However, through the records of these cases, one could see that he was extraordinary and powerful. After reading these files, Guyu realized that Chu Li's reputation was well-deserved. If it were someone else, they would not have been able to solve these cases. It was no wonder that Fu Mengshan and Su Huan relied on him so much, even if he was the head chief of King An's imperial residence. Commander Gu, Centurion Chu is here. Liang reported from outside the hall. Come in, Guyu said in a deep voice. He raised his head and straightened his back, his eyes bright and threatening. Chu Li stepped into the hall and cupped his fists. Greetings, Commander Gu. His eyes met Guyu's for a moment before he looked away. Centurion Chu, I've long heard of your name in the imperial house. Guyu smiled and extended his hand. We finally meet today. Please take a seat. Chu Li cupped his fists and sat down. Centurion Chu, as soon as you came out of isolation, you came across Consort Ping's assassination case. You investigated it together with Commander Su, right? Guyu flashed a smile. His gaze was amiable, and there was not a hint of sternness in it. Instead, it was a sense of closeness. Chu Li replied, It was a coincidence that we came across it and solved the case. Sigh. Guyu shook his head. Commander Su was really wronged. No one could have done anything when something like this happened. In the end, he could only resign and guard the imperial mausoleum. Chu Li nodded. Guyu put away the dossier and said casually, Commander Su did a good deed by closing the case before he left, saving us a lot of trouble. I heard that Centurion Chu also helped us. Chu Li replied, I was only responsible for catching the accomplice. As for the rest, I had to leave it to Commander Su because I had to participate in the hunting ceremony. By the time I returned from the hunting ceremony, Commander Su had already left for Fairy's capital. It happened so quickly that I didn't even know what happened after that. I don't know if the mastermind was found. Didn't Commander Su tell you? Guyu was surprised. Chu Li replied, I wanted to ask Commander Su about it, but he had already left when I returned to the city. It seems like it didn't go well. Otherwise, Commander Su wouldn't have to resign. Guyu lamented, Commander Su was unlucky. It seems that the accomplice you caught was dead. Commander Su couldn't get any information out of him, so he closed the case. Dead? Chu Li frowned. He took the spirit blessing pill. How could he be dead? He didn't survive the interrogation. Guyu spread his hands and sighed. Perhaps Commander Su was too impatient and used too much force. That shouldn't be the case. Chu Li was still puzzled. He frowned. With the spirit blessing pill's effect, even the most severe interrogation wouldn't have been fatal. I see. Guyu was also puzzled. Is there something else? Most likely, Chu Li said. Could it be that Commander Su got some information that he shouldn't have? Then, he saw that the situation was bad and could only protect himself? Could it be someone from the Ji dynasty who did it? His expression changed as he looked at Guyu. Guyu's expression changed as well. He quickly waved his hand. Don't talk nonsense. Chu Li said in a low voice. It's possible. King Ping has a lot of achievements in the war and has worked hard, but he's also envied by others. If someone doesn't like him and attacks Consort Ping, what will happen if King Ping finds out? The world will be in chaos. Centurion Shu. Guyu hurriedly waved his hand. Shut up. He strode to the entrance of the main hall, looked around, and waved his hand. You may leave. There were 2 protectors outside the main hall. They quickly fist saluted and left. Guyu's expression changed as he returned to his seat and glared at Chu Li. Chu Li's expression darkened as well. He seemed to be angry that he had guessed the truth. Guyu sighed and said, You'll lose your head if you speak like this. You mustn't speak carelessly. Chu Li coldly said, Commander Su is really unlucky. Luckily, I didn't participate in the interrogation and didn't know the details. Otherwise, as a centurion, I would have to guard the mausoleum with Commander Su. Chapter 37:59. Chu Li said, I didn't think about all of this, but after being enlightened by you, Commander Gu, I suddenly thought it through. It seems like I'm really not suited to be a servant in the Secret Guardian's Hall. I might as well resign from my post as a Secret Guardian and be an honest head chief. There's still a lot of work to do in the Imperial Residence. Ever since King and left the Imperial Residence, I have to make decisions for everything. It's really a mess. On top of that, I've been in isolated cultivation for a while now and accumulated a lot of work. Please don't. Guyu quickly waved his hand. You're an elite of the Secret Guardian's Hall. Chu Li shook his head. Elite is just a title. Being a Secret Guardian is so dangerous. I'll have to guard the Imperial Mausoleum or even lose my life if I come across any news. It's better to be my head chief. Guyu chuckled. Centurion Shu, you're worrying too much. How can there be so many dangerous things in this world? I'm guessing that Commander Su didn't find out who the mastermind was. Instead, he failed to find out who the mastermind was. The Emperor is extremely furious over Consort Ping's assassination attempt. Since Commander Fu isn't in Fairy's capital, the blame can only fall on Commander Su. If he doesn't, who will? Really? Chu Li frowned and hesitated. Guyu smiled. I'm from the Imperial House. I know about this. That's good. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Guyu wanted to see if Chu Li knew about Commander Su's confession. If he did, he would have to silence him. As a centurion, he did not receive the same treatment as a deputy commander. He could not guard the Imperial Mausoleum even if he wanted to. He felt a chill down his spine. The Emperor really treated his courtiers like ants. He killed a rank one like him without mercy. Previously, he had thought that with his current level of cultivation and power, he would be able to protect himself. Now, it seemed like he was too naive. In the Emperor's eyes, a mere centurion or even the head chief of King An's imperial residence was not worth mentioning. Even the youth champion was insignificant. The Emperor could kill him whenever he wanted. He had to obtain more power and strive to reach the enlightened mastery's boundary as soon as possible to protect himself. Otherwise, his life and death would be in the hands of the Emperor. It was a terrible feeling. At this moment, his heart was surging with anger and motivation. He wanted to seize even more power at all costs, cultivate even faster, and reach the heavenly god realm, the heavenly deity realm. Now, it seemed like he had some hope of becoming a deity. There was almost no one in the younger generation who could rival him, But if he wanted to become a deity, he would need to become a heavenly deity. He couldn't wait that long. He had to find a way to defy the heavens and become a god. Guyu had finally passed this hurdle. As long as he revealed the slightest hint that he knew the results of Commander Su's investigation, his little life would be over. He could run amok among the younger generation, but he could not defeat some hidden old monsters. Guyu smiled. Centurion Chu, you've gone into isolated cultivation. It's time for you to return to work, right? Chu Li shook his head. Commander Gu, I'm really busy now. I'll come back to the residence after a while. About that, Gu Yu's expression darkened. Chu Li said, Commander Gu, you've just arrived, so you might not be aware of this. Mayor Courtyard doesn't accept ordinary cases, or else we'll be stealing everyone's jobs. We'll only be mobilized for difficult cases. Oh, Gu Yu's expression darkened. Chu Li meant that he usually did not do anything, but only participated in major and difficult cases. He was really arrogant. Gu Yu had finally seen it. There's so many grandmasters in your Mayor Courtyard, but you're just idling around. There aren't enough grandmasters in the residence. Gu Yu frowned, and his expression darkened. Chu Li shook his head. The grandmasters in Mayor Courtyard need to conserve their strength. If they do trivial matters, they won't be able to play a big role during critical moments. It'll be a sin if they delay important matters. Gu Yu's expression darkened, but he did not say anything else. He dared not say that he would bear the responsibility. Otherwise, Chu Li would definitely instruct his subordinates to be negligent at critical moments. If they made a mistake, the responsibility would be pushed to him, and there would be endless trouble. Chu Li coughed softly. However, if Commander Gu really needs manpower, you can transfer it from Mayor Courtyard. After all, there's secret guardians from the Secret Guardians Hall. We can't just stand by and watch. Gu Yu's expression softened. He finally knew how to be a little respectful. Chu Li said, If there's any difficult case, Commander Gu can look for me. If it's an ordinary case, the other courtyards in the residence are more than enough to handle it. All right. Gu Yu's expression darkened. He slowly nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you, Centurion Chu. Chu Li fist saluted. I'll take my leave then. All right, go ahead, Gu Yu slowly said. Looking at Chu Li's back, the veins on Gu Yu's hands bulged. He was extremely angry. Chu Li really lived up to his reputation. He did not even care about a deputy commander like him. He was arrogant and difficult to control. Gu Yu had to use him to establish his authority. Otherwise, who in the Secret Guardians Hall would obey him? Chu Li left the main hall and secretly shook his head. This Gu Yu was another Fu Mengshan. He was a smiling tiger. He looked amiable, but his heart was filled with malicious thoughts. He always wanted to harm people. Chu Li and Gu Yu were not the same kind of people. They would fall out sooner or later. He could not rely on luck. Fu Mengshan hid in a corner and did not come out at all. Gu Yu's background was unknown. When he returned to Mayor Courtyard, everyone surrounded him. Chu Li waved his hand. All right, go do what you have to do. Don't worry. Dong Qifei said, Centurion, did that Gu Yu come looking for trouble? No. Chu Li shook his head. But he'll come looking for trouble sooner or later. Be careful. It's nothing. We'll just pretend to be sick. Dong Qifei scoffed. If he's sick, do you expect us to insist on coming to the roll call? Don't go overboard. Chu Li shook his head. You can't be too domineering. You'll anger everyone. Yes. Dong Qifei nodded helplessly. We'll be careful. Yang Zhongwen said. He doesn't want to use us to establish his authority. Chu Li laughed. It's not that serious. But you have to be careful of his little tricks. I'll go back first. Yes. Everyone fist saluted. Chu Li waved his hand and left the Secret Guardians Hall. He returned to his courtyard in King An's imperial residence and suddenly disappeared. Su Huanda was in a green robe. He was wielding a long sword. His body was drenched in sweat. His face was as pale as a sheet. There was a long wound on his left shoulder. He was being attacked by 4 masked men in black. The force of the blade was like a violent storm. The long sword was like a light screen protecting his body. Su Huanda's swordsmanship was extremely high. Although he was at a disadvantage, he did not collapse. He was struggling to hold on. 2 masked men in black were lying not far from them. They were both injured by Su Huanda. They laid on the ground motionlessly. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. However, Su Wanda paid the price for injuring two masked men in black. His inner energy was exhausted. He was at the end of his rope. He could not hold on any longer. He waved his sword and sighed. These 6 masked men in black had extremely high swordsmanship. They did not seem to be from any martial arts faction. They were most likely Imperial House protectors. Could it be that the Emperor could not help but kill him? He could not accept it. He was not willing to die here. Chapter 3760. Who are you? Su Wanda shouted as he waved his sword. Although he was exhausted and could fall at any time, his sword was still moving as if he was not affected at all. It showed that he had a strong foundation, and the foundation of his swordsmanship was beyond imagination. He must have put in a lot of effort and was showing it now. The 4 masked men in black sneered. They planned to say something to affect him and affect his state of mind. This guy was too difficult to deal with. He was about to be defeated, but he did not lose. It made them feel uneasy. Can't you guess who we are? One of the masked men shouted. Do you really want us to say it? I can't, Su Wanda said in a deep voice. You just don't want to admit it. The masked man in black shook his head. But if you don't want to admit it, we won't either. So you could be a confused ghost. Which prince sent you here? Su Wanda asked with a snort. If you say so. The masked man in black sneered. As long as you go to see the king of hell, you can say who you want. Su Wanda scoffed. Which prince? What do you think? The masked man in black smiled. Why don't you take a guess? Su Wanda fell silent. He knew that these people would not reveal anything. The more they did so, the more he felt that they were sent by the Emperor. If they were from other forces, he would have to show off. Otherwise, he would not feel good. He waved his sword continuously, but his speed had slowed down. He had no strength left and was completely powerless. He had no chance of winning against the protectors of the Imperial House. Since the Emperor wanted to kill him, it would be futile for him to resist. How could he escape from the Emperor? Ding! His sword suddenly flew out of his hand. Then a sword slashed down, trying to cut off his head. He tried his best to fall back and avoided the sword, but he could not avoid the other sword. The sword stabbed into his chest. The tip of the sword came out at his back and was dyed red with blood. Ugh! Su Wanda could not help but groan. He tried his best to widen his eyes and attacked with his palm. He wanted to die together with the guy who hurt him. However, the masked man with the sword reacted quickly. When he saw Su Wanda's palm, he immediately dodged to the side to avoid the strong palm energy. Bang! Su Wanda's palm force created a large pit on the ground. His body was like a leaking balloon, his strength quickly leaking out from his wound. His entire body was limp, and he could no longer exert any strength. Su Wanda clutched the knife in his chest and pointed at them. Can you tell me who you are now? No. The 4 masked men in black shook their heads. Su Wanda smiled bitterly. He didn't expect them to be so vigilant. Even in such a situation, they still didn't tell him and refused to let him know. All right. Su Wanda sighed. I didn't want to use this secret technique at first, but you guys forced me to. Suddenly, his body swelled up like an inflated balloon. His aura surged again, and the saber that was originally stuck in his chest shot out. Blood spurted out, but he quickly stopped the bleeding with a few moves. It was as if he had not been injured at all. His aura was astonishing, and his eyes were like lightning. With a wave of his hand, the sword nearby flew into his hand. He used a secret technique. He won't be able to hold on for long. The 4 masked men in black looked at each other. At this moment, the bright sunlight shone on the forest and on their bodies. Their black clothes became even darker, and their cold eyes were especially cold. The 4 masked men in black rushed up to attack Su Wanda. The saber light was like a waterfall, and it was even fiercer than before. However, under Su Wanda's sword light, their saber light was overshadowed. Initially, they didn't want to use the secret technique because there would always be side effects. However, it seemed that they had to use it now. Hence, they all used their secret techniques. Their aura changed drastically, and the saber light suddenly became brighter, and they could compete with the sword light. For a moment, the 2 groups of people were in a deadlock again. The saber light whistled, and the sword light sizzled. Time passed unknowingly, and they were still in a deadlock. As time passed, all of them lost their strength. Their sword force became slower and weaker, and their saber force became limp. Ugh! One of the masked men in black was stabbed in the chest and fell down. The other three were furious. They raised their spirits and attacked fiercely again. This time, Su Huanda completely used up his strength. He wanted to dodge, but he couldn't. Cheat! A saber hit his chest, and suddenly a long wound appeared on his chest. It looked like a baby's mouth, and blood instantly gushed out, drenching his clothes. Ah! Su Huanda roared angrily. He wanted to swing his sword again, but he didn't have the strength to do so. He could only lean against a tree and slowly slide down. His legs could no longer support his body weight, and he was sweating profusely. The three masked men in black finally let out a sigh of relief. White steam was rising from their bodies, and they had no strength in their hands. The sabers seemed to be as heavy as 1,000 pounds, and they couldn't even lift it. It was difficult for them to even take a step. Their secret techniques were all used up, and their bodies were extremely weak. It seemed like they couldn't even lift a finger. "Let's go and finish him," one of the masked men in black said in a deep voice. The three of them surrounded Su Huanda, who was sitting on the ground. Su Huanda leaned against a tree and stared at them coldly. At this time, you still don't want to say who is the mastermind. You can guess. One of the masked men in black shook his head and said, "We will never say it." "Humph," Su Huanda said coldly. "My ending will be your ending. Think about my identity." He. The masked men in black laughed and continued to approach him. Su Huanda closed his eyes. "Give me a quick death." "Don't worry, it'll be quick." One of the masked men in black mustered the last bit of strength he had left in his body and swung his saber. He was about to cut off Su Huanda's head and complete this difficult mission. They had never expected that they would lose 3 people. Swoosh! A cold light suddenly appeared in the forest and hit the saber. Ding! A crisp sound was heard, and the saber was knocked away by the cold light. Thud! The saber was shot into a tree, and only the handle was left trembling. The saber was completely buried in the tree. "Who is it?" The 3 masked men in black were shocked and furious. They had no way to defend themselves now, and could only wait for death if they encountered an opponent. Chuli appeared in front of Su Huanda and smiled. "Commander Su, you look so pathetic." He went forward and stuffed a pill into Su Huanda's mouth, then sealed the wound on his chest with his fingers. He took out a porcelain bottle and applied some ointment on the wound, then turned to look at the 3 masked men in black who were trying their best to retreat. Bam, bam, bam. Chu Li suddenly disappeared and instantly circled around the 3 of them. The 3 of them fell backward. Su Huanda hurriedly shouted, "Spare them." Chu Li had already returned to his original position and smiled. "Don't worry, they won't die. They just fainted." Phew. Su Huanda let out a long sigh of relief. "Chu Li, why are you here?" "I was worried, so I came to take a look." "Sure enough, I ran into trouble." Chu Li shook his head. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have gotten involved in this mess." Chapter 3761. P.S. Update complete. What a sin. Su Huanda remained silent. He guessed that the 6 masked men were Imperial House protectors sent by the Emperor. Moreover, they vaguely felt familiar, as if they were people he knew. He often went in and out of the Imperial House and was familiar with many protectors. It was possible that he knew them. He did not expect these acquaintances to come to kill him. How sad. The sudden surge of thoughts made him feel sad and sorrowful. He didn't expect that his loyal and devoted self would end up like this. Everything was like a dream. Once the Emperor wanted to kill him, he would not have a chance to escape. He would die sooner or later. "You shouldn't have saved me." Su Huanda shook his head and sighed. "I can't escape. It's really the Emperor?" Chu Li frowned. "It can't be. If he wanted you dead, why did he have to do it halfway? It's safer to do it in the Imperial Mausoleum. I'll contact more people once I'm in the Imperial Mausoleum and leak the news." Su Huanda scoffed. He was ready to risk everything. Since he was going to die sooner or later, There was nothing to worry about. Chu Li said, "It's better to clarify things. Let me ask them." He then removed the masks of the 6 masked men one by one, revealing their faces. Su Huanda's expression changed. Chu Li smiled. "They're all acquaintances. Commander Su, you don't recognize them?" Su Huanda's face was so gloomy as he glared at them. Their acupuncture points were sealed, so they could only watch as their masks were removed. These people were secret guardians from the Secret Guardians Hall. Su Huanda came to a realization. No wonder they looked familiar. He did not expect them to be secret guardians, so he thought they were Imperial House protectors. Chu Li said, "Tell me, who sent you here? Could it be Commander Fu?" "Yes." One of the men in black nodded. Chu Li laughed. "I know it's a lie. Since it's not the commander, it must be the deputy commander." "Deputy Commander Guyu?" The 3 of them shut their mouths. Chu Li turned to look at Su Huanda. Su Huanda took a deep breath and sneered. "Guyu," Chu Li said, "Commander Gu is really resourceful. She's trying to get rid of me. She's afraid that you'll be reinstated, isn't she?" Su Huanda slowly said, "That might not be the case. He might have guessed the Emperor's thoughts, so he wants to please the Emperor. Without His Majesty's orders, would he dare to kill a deputy commander? Even if the Emperor doesn't want to kill me, if I'm killed by him, then so be it. After all, I'm an eyesore now." "Not necessarily." Chu Li shook his head. "So what if he's not? After all, he's dead and can't be resurrected. At most, Guyu will be reprimanded, but he won't lose the Emperor's favor." "Where did this Guyu come from?" Chu Li furrowed his brows. "I only know that he is a descendant of a family of generals. His father died on the battlefield. How did he receive the Emperor's favor?" "Because his father died in battle to save the Emperor." Su Huanda shook his head and smiled bitterly. "As long as Guyu doesn't rebel, the Emperor won't kill him. Died to save the Emperor." Chu Li furrowed his brows. This was troublesome. Su Huanda said, "Back when the Emperor was still an Imperial Crown Prince, he went to the border to train and was ambushed. It was Guyu's father who single-handedly brought the Emperor away. In the end, he died in the hands of the enemy in order to stop the pursuers. Without Guyu's father's desperate rescue, the Emperor would have died in that ambush. This Guyu really can't be touched. He's comparable to a prince." Chu Li shook his head. Su Huanda said, "What happened? Did you fight him?" Chu Li told him what happened and finally shook his head. "He wants to use me as a warning to others. I can't just wait for my death, so I can only block him." He realized that he had underestimated Guyu. Guyu's methods were more vicious than he thought. In order to protect his position, he killed people like it was child's play. He even dared to kill an important minister like Su Huanda. If he were to fight him head-on, the result would not be the same as Su Huanda and Fu Mangshan. It would only be a battle of words, and he might even get himself killed. Once again, he felt aggrieved. If he were to kill a person like Guyu, he would probably attract the Emperor's attention. He even had a strong urge to fight the Emperor since he had the life and death scripture. He wanted to see if he could die. However, when he thought of Shao Qi and Shao Shi, he slowly suppressed this urge. Although this would be satisfying, the consequences were serious. Even if he did not die, the existence of the life and death scripture would be exposed. He would become the target of public criticism. Not only the old monsters who were about to die, but even the enlightened masters would be interested in him. They would want to dig out the life and death scripture, and he would never have a day of peace again. He had no choice but to become an enlightened master as soon as possible. When that time came, he would not be afraid of anyone, be it the Emperor or the Tempest Temple. He would be free and unfettered, and his reincarnation would not be in vain. He took a deep breath. Since he could not kill Guyu, he could only use other methods to torture him and make him behave. "You better not go against him." Su Huanda frowned. "He's spoiled. He's been raised by the Emperor since he was young. He's even more pampered than the other princes. He has the Emperor's favor and is insufferably arrogant. He doesn't even care about the princes." "He doesn't care about the princes?" Chu Li laughed. "Isn't he afraid that he'll settle the score later? Even if the princes become the Emperor, they won't dare to do anything to him." Su Huanda shook his head. "For his father's sake, as long as he doesn't rebel, he won't be killed and can live in wealth." Chu Li smiled bitterly. He's really blessed. Su Huanda shook his head and sighed. It can't be helped. There's no point in being envious. Comparisons were odious. Guyu was born with wealth and was even more carefree than the princes. The princes had to work hard to fight for the position of crown prince, but Guyu did not have to do that. As long as he did not do anything stupid, he could live a carefree life. On the other hand, people like Su Huanda and Chu Li had to struggle and work hard to climb up bit by bit. It was not easy for Su Huanda to climb up to this position. One mistake, and he would fall back down. On the other hand, Guyu did not have to do anything to replace him. Chu Li said, "I'll escort you to the Imperial Mausoleum, Commander. He won't dare to make a move there." "Forget it." Su Huanda shook his head. "Don't worry about me," Chu Li said in a low voice. "Am I supposed to watch you get killed?" Su Huanda said, "If Guyu knows that you've made a move, he'll do anything to kill you." Chu Li smiled. "I won't let him know. Don't I have a mask?" Su Huanda laughed. "I didn't expect that mask to come in handy at this time." Back then, he had given Chu Li a fog beast mask that could change his identity. Other than him and Fu Mengshan, no one else knew about this. Moreover, others might not be able to describe the appearance of the fog beast mask, so Fu Mengshan would not know about it. "Let's go. We need to move as soon as possible before anything bad happens," Chu Li said. He grabbed Su Huanda and dragged her by the sleeve as they glided away. As for the 6 people lying on the ground, they soon died without a sound. It was a warning to Guyu. These 6 people deserved to die since they did not hesitate to kill their old superior, Su Huanda. Chu Li did not feel any pity for them. However, these 6 fellows were all grandmasters. Guyu, the newly appointed deputy commander, did not know how to explain to Fu Mengshan that they had died for no reason. However, Fu Mengshan did not dare to ask him to explain anything either. Guyu had always been this unscrupulous. Chu Li was extremely fast. After a day of rushing, they settled down in a small town in the evening. Chapter 3762. P.S. The 34th Alliance leader has been born. The leader is Gao Shan Yangzi. He looked at Tianshu Courtyard and saw Xiao Shi and Xiao Qi playing chess. The place was as bright as day, and the 2 ladies' faces looked like 2 pieces of white jade under the light. They were so exquisite and beautiful that people could not take their eyes off them. Chu Li did not disturb them and returned to Gale City in a flash. He sat in his house and cultivated. He was thinking about how to obtain the White Tiger power. The art of White Tiger was only the foundation of the White Tiger power. One could only cultivate the White Tiger power after cultivating the art of White Tiger. The White Tiger power did not have much power in the hands of the White Tiger sect. It was not as powerful as the Great Light Scripture, but it was not because it was weak. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was too weak, so it was not suitable to cultivate this technique. However, if he cultivated this technique at Spirit Crane's peak and cross-referenced it with the Crouching Bull insight, he could become an enlightened master if he cultivated it to perfect mastery. It was easy to say, but it was extremely difficult to achieve. It was many times more difficult than becoming the youth champion. With his current cultivation level, he could suppress Fa Yuan, Lu Yurong, and the one from Fenghuang Mountain. If the Titanium Temple did not participate in the fight, there was still hope. However, the Tempest Temple had a strong foundation, so it was not impossible for Fa Yuan's power to suddenly increase and become stronger than him. Green Deer Cliff was not clear, and Lu Yurong could improve her power at any time. It would not be easy to surpass them and become the champion, but it was much easier than cultivating the Crouching Bull insight to perfect mastery. Unfortunately, it could only be apatheicized but not become a god. It was difficult to go against heaven's will, and there were too many restrictions. It would be better not to become an enlightened master if he had such an enlightened master. The only thing he could do now was to learn the White Tiger power first. "Guards!" He raised his voice and shouted. A young maid called Xiao Jia answered in a crisp voice, "Yes, young master. Get Ko Qiong here." "Yes." Not long after Xiao Jia left, Ko Qiong knocked on the door softly. "Young master? Come in and talk," Chu Li said. Ko Qiong opened the door and went to Chu Li's bed. "What can I do for you, young master? What's the situation in the Roaring Tiger clan now?" Chu Li asked. "Are there any disciples from the White Tiger sect?" "Ever since you left, young master, the original White Tiger sect disciple of the Roaring Tiger clan has left. Another young disciple has arrived," Ko Chiong said. "I heard that he's also a genius from the White Tiger sect. He's young, but his cultivation base is profound." Very good." Chu Li smiled. "Where does he live?" "He has been in the Roaring Tiger clan," Ko Chiong said. "Do you want to deal with him, young master?" Chu Li shook his head. "Don't provoke him for now. Give me a house near Roaring Tiger Hall. The closer, the better." In order to see through the thoughts of the other party, the distance was related to how much mental energy one had to expend. If one wanted to see through the thoughts of the other party from a distance, one would have to expend a great deal of mental energy. If one wanted to see through the thoughts of the other party from a close distance, the amount of mental energy needed to see through the thoughts of the other party would be negligible. Ko Chiong hurriedly nodded. "I'll go prepare and capture him as soon as possible, young master." "Go, keep this a secret," Chu Li said. "Yes, I understand." Ko Chiong smiled. Chu Li waved his hand. "I'm going over there to cultivate in isolation. We'll be able to resolve it tomorrow," Ko Chiong said. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction and waved his hand. Ko Chiong left. Although he did not understand why Chu Li wanted to get close to the Roaring Tiger clan's house and cultivate in isolation, he did not ask too much. He only needed to carry out his orders. It would not benefit him to ask too much. Chu Li was very satisfied with Ko Chiong and the other two. They were experienced and had a clear mind. They did not ask too many questions and were able to understand things easily. Chu Li did not have to waste his breath, and sometimes they were even more meticulous than he was. The next morning, Chu Li woke up from his meditation. Ko Chiong had been waiting outside for a long time. When Chu Li called him in, he gave a fist salute and said with a smile, "Young master, I found a house." "You didn't rob a house, did you?" Chu Li asked. "Of course not," Ko Chiong quickly said. "We won't do such a thing. 1,000 taels of silver was enough to solve the problem." The family left happily and did not take anything with them. 1,000 taels of silver is enough for them to live a carefree life. "All right," Chu Li nodded. "I'll stay there tonight. I have something to do during the day. I'll get someone to clean it up during the day," Ko Chiong said. Chu Li nodded. "Don't let anyone from Roaring Tiger clan find out." "Of course." Ko Chiong nodded and smiled. "Young master, do you want our breakfast?" "Bring it up," Chu Li said. Ko Chiong waved his hand. Xiao Jia, the beautiful maid outside the door, gave an order, and a few maids brought in breakfast. Each of these little girls had a graceful figure and a beautiful appearance. It was obvious that they had spent a lot of effort to carefully select them. Chu Li looked at them and shook his head with a smile. This was the beauty of power. Without power, there would not be so many beautiful women. Even if one did not touch them, it was a pleasure to look at them. A sumptuous breakfast was placed on the table, giving off a tempting aroma. Chu Li ate under their watchful eyes. After he was full, he left and soon disappeared from Gale City. He appeared next to Su Huanda. Su Huanda's room was very spacious. There was a living room, a study room, and a bedroom. Su Huanda was sitting on the bed and channeling to heal his injuries. Although he had spirit medicine, he still needed to work hard to fully recover from his injuries. Chu Li looked at him and knew that he had not eaten. He called the waiter who had been waiting at the staircase and quickly brought him breakfast. Su Huanda was tempted by the aroma and came down to eat. Chu Li picked up a book and read it. After breakfast, the two bought 2 horses and rode them out of town. They continued to go to the Imperial Mausoleum. After they were more than 10 miles away from town, Su Huanda suddenly took out a few folded letters and handed them to Chu Li. "Take a look at these." Chu Li took them and smiled. "Commander Su must have given me a treasure." Su Huanda smiled. "It's more precious than a treasure." Chu Li opened the letters and looked through them one by one. There were 10 of them in total. He looked up and was surprised. "This, I might not be able to return to Fairy's capital. I was going to bring this name list with me to my coffin." Su Huanda said, "If you use these people well, they will unleash unimaginable power. I believe you can use them well." Chuli looked serious and slowly nodded. Thank you, Commander Su. I'm not a commander anymore. Su Huanda shook his head. I might not be able to become a commander in this lifetime. Why didn't you pass them to Commander Fu? Chuli rubbed his hands together, and the 10 white letters instantly turned into powder. They were blown away by the wind and disappeared from this world. Su Huanda smiled when he saw him like this. He said in a low voice, I don't trust him. Chuli sighed. I don't trust Commander Fu either. Fu Mengshan had no sense of friendship. He only cared about benefits. Once the benefits were big enough, he would not even blink if he sold himself. He and Su Huanda were polar opposites. Su Huanda was cold and warm-hearted while Fu Mengshan was warm on the outside and cold on the inside. Then Commander Su trusts me? You're trustworthy. Su Huanda smiled. They'll be safer under your command. Chapter 3763. The 10 pieces of paper were Su Huanda's list of informants. They were independent of the Secret Guardian's Hall. They only recognized Su Huanda and not the Secret Guardian's Hall. Su Huanda took out another jade pendant from his inner pocket. This time, it was only half a piece, and he passed it to Chu Li. This is a keepsake. They'll obey your orders as soon as they see this jade pendant. They're all hidden chess pieces, so you have to be cautious when using them. Chu Li took it and nodded slowly. These informants were not only in the Ji dynasty, but also in the Li dynasty, the Zheng dynasty, the Fu dynasty, and even the farthest Zhou dynasty. The identities of these people varied. Some were peddlers and servants. Some were officials of the imperial court. Some were martial arts masters. Some were prostitutes. And some were even servants. Their identities were different, and the level of information they came into contact with was also different. However, their loyalty could withstand the test, and they could be of great use at critical times. Chu Li was secretly impressed. Compared to these chess pieces, he did not have enough of them. Moreover, they were not rich enough and were too singular. The information they could receive was also limited. He would have to learn from Su Huanda in this aspect. Later on, he discussed with Su Huanda how to arrange the chess pieces. He learned a lot from listening to them, and was even tempted to try it out on Crouching Bull Mountain. The two talked as they galloped. The sound of the horses' hooves did not affect their conversation. You must be careful of Gu Yu and Fu Mengshan. Su Huanda said in a low voice. He's ruthless. If Gu Yu isn't around, he'll rely on you. However, if Gu Yu gives him any benefits or pressures or threatens him, I'm sure he'll turn against you together with Gu Yu. What should I do? Chu Li asked. In terms of wisdom and meticulousness, he was better than Su Huanda. However, in terms of experience, he was far behind. Sometimes experience was wisdom. Go into isolated cultivation. Su Huanda shook his head. He can't be provoked, so avoid him. After these 3 fires, Gu Yu will know that he can't do without you. He'll be well-behaved. No matter how favored he is, deep down, he still wants to do something to shut his mouth. Chu Li nodded slowly. All right, I'll go into isolated cultivation again. Since you're going into isolated cultivation, don't worry about Mei Air Courtyard. Su Huanda said, I don't think he'll give up. He'll poach Mei Air Courtyard's people or even suppress them. Your subordinates will have to be tested. I won't harm them, will I? Chu Li frowned. He had killed the secret guardians who tried to assassinate Su Huanda. If Gu Yu used the people from Mei Air Courtyard as well, he would be in danger. Su Huanda said, that'll depend on their wisdom to protect themselves. Chu Li smiled. Understood. Thank you, Commander Su. There's also the Emperor. Su Huanda hesitated. Chu Li replied, I know that the Emperor is heartless. This time, Gu Yu is here to test me. If I reveal even the slightest hint that I know about this, I'll be silenced. It's good that you understand this. Su Huanda smiled. You can't treat the Emperor as a human. He's a god, cold-blooded and heartless. Just how powerful are the enlightened masters? Chu Li asked. Commander, Su has met the Emperor before, do you know? This is a big secret. Su Huanda said, but now that things have come to this, I don't have any scruples anymore. The enlightened master's world is his world. It's a world of its own. He is the god of this world. Chu Li shook his head. indicating that he did not understand. Within a radius of 100 feet, divine powers are useless and inner energy can't be replenished. Grandmasters are no different from acquired masters. Su Huanda shook his head. No matter how powerful a grandmaster is, he can't withstand a single blow from an enlightened master. I see. Chu Li slowly nodded, his heart heavy. Don't think about going against the emperor. Su Huanda said, just like how you can't resist fate. Chu Li slowly nodded. His desire to become an enlightened master grew stronger. Su Huanda said, but the emperor won't kill you easily. As long as you don't kill the princes and imperial princes, even if the emperor wants to kill you, he won't do it himself. There's a chance. Chu Li said, this time, it's Guyu who wants to kill you, Commander Su. The emperor didn't kill you, so there's a chance. It'll be fine once we reach the imperial mausoleum. Su Huanda said, Guyu can't reach the imperial mausoleum. Chu Li nodded. In the evening, Chu Li returned to his courtyard and asked Zhu Tianhua to greet Yang Zongwen. A moment later, Yang Zongwen came over and bowed in front of him. Chu Li sat by the stone table in the courtyard and muttered, is there any movement from Commander Gu? Nothing. Yang Zongwen shook his head. Something seems to be brewing. It feels like the calm before the storm. Chu Li said, tell Commander Gu that I'm going into isolated cultivation again. Yes. Yang Zongwen quickly asked, are you avoiding him? Just avoid him. Chu Li sighed. It's not worth it to fight because of personal feelings, but you guys can't be like me. Yang Zongwen looked troubled. Chu Li said, tell the others to seek refuge with Guyu. Qin Jin and the others fought among themselves and got seriously injured. They have to go back and recuperate. Seek refuge with Guyu? Yang Zongwen's expression changed. Chu Li shook his head. This is the only way. Otherwise, you guys won't be able to resist him. Qin Jin and the others won't believe it even if they want to seek refuge with him. He won't believe it even if we seek refuge with him, Yang Zongwen said. Chu Li smiled. He'll accept you guys even if he doesn't believe it. He'll achieve his goal by destroying our May Air courtyard. However, if he wants you guys to leave Fairy's capital, he'll let Qin Jin and the others deal with you. Qin Jin and the others are grandmasters, and they've worked hard. He can't do anything to them. Yes. Yang Zongwen hesitated. Chu Li said, as a centurion, I'm going into isolated cultivation at a crucial time. If I leave you guys behind, it'll be enough to make you angry and disappointed. Then, you'll seek refuge with him. Yang Zongwen quickly said, how is that possible? Chu Li smiled. It's highly possible. People will believe it if I tell them. I'm the first to be heartless, so I can't blame you guys for being unjust. Guyu will also be skeptical. We'll talk about it when I come out of isolated cultivation. When will the centurion come out? That depends on luck. Chu Li smiled. I'll only come out when I encounter a case that I can't solve. Yang Zongwen smiled. Chu Li said, there's another piece of news. The Holy Church of Light is planning to assassinate King Ping. Visit Commander Fu personally and tell him about it. Keep it away from others and don't tell anyone else. Yes, Yang Zongwen replied. Chu Li waved his hand. Go. How you deal with Guyu will depend on your abilities. We'll deal with it. Yang Zongwen smiled. Don't worry, Centurion. If there's a problem, send someone over immediately. I'll rescue them, Chu Li said. Yes. Yang Zongwen fist saluted and left. Chu Li pondered. He wondered if Guyu would send someone to kill Su Huanda. If he did, would he send Qin Jin and the others? Chapter 3764. Chu Li bid farewell to Shao Qi and Shao Shi at Tianshu courtyard and was about to leave. Shao Shi called out to him. What have you been busy with these 2 days? I haven't seen you around. Chu Li asked, does Second Lady have any instructions for Consort Ping's case? Let's go over there and have some fun. Shao Shi gave him a look. Chu Li looked at Shao Qi. Where's Lady? Shao Qi replied, it's good to take a look. Chu Li smiled. All right, we'll go over tonight. Shao Shi smiled. I've been eating other fruits for the past 2 days, and I feel like they're tasteless. It's so troublesome. Don't forget that you can't leave for a few days at a time. Shao Qi said, those fruits are very beneficial to my body. My skills have improved a lot. They have such a magical effect. Chuli smiled. He had eaten those fruits before and found that they had little effect. Then, he remembered that it was Xiaoqi's first time eating them, and that her body was not as strong as his. The fruits were very nourishing for her body, but since his body was so strong, the nourishment was dispensable. When night fell, he brought the two ladies to Spirit Crane's Peak and played for half the night. Then, he brought them back to the residence and went to Gale City. Not long after he returned, Ko Cheong appeared beside him. "Young master, it's ready. You can move in any time." Chuli nodded. "Bring me there." Ko Cheong did not say anything else and brought Chu Li out of the residence. At night, Gale City was like a city that never sleeps. Although it was already past midnight, it was still brightly lit and there were many pedestrians outside. They passed through a few alleys and arrived at a simple courtyard. The surroundings were very quiet, and there were only a few lanterns hanging in the alleys. The residents here were not wealthy, so it was not worth 1,000 taels of silver. Ko Cheong brought Chu Li into the slightly narrow residence and said embarrassedly, "Young master, what do you think of this courtyard? Although it's a little small, it's quiet and no one will disturb us." "Not bad." Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. He had already seen the Roaring Tiger clan in his mind. It was only a street away and was no more than 100 meters away. It was a rare place for him to be able to observe the thoughts of the people in the Roaring Tiger clan. Ko Cheong smiled. "As long as you're satisfied, young master. All right, go ahead and do what you need to do. You don't have to wait for me," Chu Li said. "I'll go back there after I eat." "Understood," Ko Cheong answered, cupped his fists, and left. Chu Li walked around the residence with his hands behind his back. There were a total of 3 small courtyards: the front hall, the inner courtyard, and the backyard. Although they were not big, they were cleaned in an orderly manner, exuding a strong sense of life. Throughout the entire process, he had been keeping an eye on the Roaring Tiger clan that was 100 meters away. He saw a handsome and cold young man practicing martial arts in a small courtyard. Under the moonlight, he saw that the young man was practicing the white tiger killing skill. Its power was extraordinary, and it was only slightly inferior to that of the white tiger sex elder. His cultivation level was also slightly lower than the white tiger sect elders, but it was already extremely rare for him to reach such a cultivation level at such a young age. He could even be considered a genius. How many levels of the white tiger power did this genius possess? He began to activate his inner energy in the small courtyard, circulating it according to the mental cultivation method of the white tiger killing skill. All of a sudden, a vague silhouette of a tiger appeared between his palms, and with a sudden jolt of his mind, it was as if he'd been pulled into the silhouette of the tiger. With a push of his inner energy, the silhouette of the tiger shot out and moved according to his will. Wherever his mind went, the silhouette of the tiger would chase after it, as if it was playing with his mind. It revealed a hint of playfulness, which surprised Chu Li greatly. He did not expect the white tiger killing skill to be so mysterious. He did not activate it with his mind, but rather, he guided it with his mind. Chu Li's mind changed several times, and the silhouette of the tiger chased after him a few times as well. Just as it was about to disappear, it suddenly lost control like a drunkard and crashed into the rockery next to it. With a muffled bang, 2 rocks fell from the rockery. The white tiger killing skill was quite powerful, and it was very effective when used against an unexpected enemy. Only those who knew the ins and outs of the white tiger sect could have a chance of avoiding it. If they encountered it rashly, they would definitely be hit. Chu Li practiced the white tiger killing skill a few more times before he finally nodded in satisfaction. He watched as the young man returned to his house. He first drank some tea, calmed his breathing, and sat cross-legged on his bed to begin cultivating his inner energy. Chu Li immediately activated the omniscient mirror and looked into the young man's mind. A huge and majestic tiger appeared in his mind, its long fur fluttering like a flag dancing in the wind. The clouds followed the dragon, and the wind followed the tiger. The tiger's fur shook like the turbulent waves of the sea, emitting a powerful aura. Every rise and fall was frightening. The tiger began to make movements in his mind, and the inner energy in his body moved along with the movements. It seemed that the inner energy was coordinating with the tiger's momentum, making the tiger's pounce or tail scissor more powerful. Chuli knew that this was the white tiger power. The white tiger power did not seem special on the surface. All he had to do was sit cross-legged and cultivate, but his mind was in turmoil. A ghastly aura was faintly discernible on his body, as if he had transformed into a tiger and was vaguely going to make these movements. Chuli imitated and replayed the movements in his mind, trying his best to remember them. The movements of the tiger were rather slow, so Chuli slowly followed and practiced with it. Before he could practice 20 tiger movements, the young man's spirit was already exhausted. He slowly lay down and immediately fell asleep. Chuli shook his head helplessly. This young man was too weak. It was just a simple posture, and he was already so tired. He muttered to himself thoughtfully. After a while, he suddenly got off the ground and left the courtyard. He followed the tiger's momentum in the young man's mind and began to assume the posture of a tiger. Then, he urged the heart technique and realized that he was right. This kind of cultivation was much better than meditating. He smiled. After repeating it a few times, a pure inner energy surged out. This speed was very shocking. Could it be that he had created it himself, and no one in the huge white tiger sect had managed to figure out after so many years? That shouldn't be the case. He quickly figured out the reason. It was not that others did not figure it out, but it was useless even if they figured it out. No one could multitask like him. He visualized in his mind, kept up with his movements, and urged his inner energy. This was completely different from the heart technique of martial arts. It was unusually complicated, and he was completely multitasking. Moreover, he had to have a pure mind. He realized that this kind of cultivation was very fast, but in the end, he would probably still have to meditate with his legs crossed. He kept cultivating the white tiger power until dawn before he hurriedly took a nap. The next morning, he met up with Su Huanda and hurried on with their journey. As for the young man in the Roaring Tiger clan, he was not in a hurry to finish his cultivation. He would probably stay in the Roaring Tiger clan. The rest of his journey with Su Huanda was very smooth. 5 days later, Su Huanda's injuries recovered, and they arrived at the Imperial Mausoleum. Chuli did not appear at the Imperial Mausoleum. He bade farewell to Su Huanda from afar and promised to visit him again if he had the chance. Su Huanda arrived without a hitch, but Chuli's cultivation was not so smooth. He realized that this young genius's level of the white tiger power was very shallow. If he cultivated with him, he did not know how long it would take for him to completely master the white tiger power. It seemed like he had to think of a way. In the evening, he returned to Gale City and went straight to Ko Cheong's house. Ko Cheong quickly heard Xiao Jie's report and hurried over. Chapter 3765. Chuli looked askance at him. Can you guys chase him away? No problem. Ko Cheong patted his chest. Young master, are you thinking of getting someone else to come over? Chuli nodded. I don't like that guy. I have to get someone else to come over. Ko Cheong said, just wait and see, young master. We'll get this done tomorrow. Chuli nodded in satisfaction. All right, I'll wait. Ko Cheong grinned and said, that kid is very arrogant. He thinks that no one dares to fight him, and no one can do anything to him. So he goes out alone every day to eat at 9-Star Tower. 9-Star Tower even reserved a table for him. Arrogant indeed. Chuli scoffed. He did not reserve a table for himself at 9-Star Tower. As expected of the White Tiger Sex property, it had special privileges. Ko Cheong said, the three of us will watch him come back after his meal. We'll cover his face and beat him up. Let's see if he still has the face to stay in Gale City. That might not be enough to chase him away. Chuli shook his head. We need to beat him up. Then we'll beat him up until his face is swollen and his arms and legs are broken. We'll make him too ashamed to stay. Ko Cheong scoffed. Chuli secretly chanted Amitabha for offending him. However, he said calmly, very well. Be careful and don't kill him. Don't worry, young master. We know what we're doing. No one will die. Ko Cheong quickly nodded. Chuli said, all right, I'll wait for your good news. Ko Cheong patted his chest and laughed. Just wait and see, young master. Chuli waved his hand. Ko Cheong tactfully bid farewell and left. The next morning, he cultivated on his bed in King An's imperial residence. Lung Xiao and Lung Qing were already practicing their swordsmanship in the courtyard. Their swordsmanship was getting better and better. Zhu Tianhua's voice suddenly came from outside. Head Chief, Yang Zongwen wants to see you. Let him in, Chu Li said. When he arrived at the courtyard, Lung Xiao and Lung Qing greeted them and continued practicing. Yang Zongwen soon arrived at the courtyard. When he saw the two ladies, he fist saluted and said to Chu Li, Commander Gu asked me to look for Centurion. What does Commander Gu want? Commander Gu said that seclusion is enough. Don't go into seclusion all day long. Martial arts cannot be improved by seclusion. Yang Zongwen smiled bitterly. You even said that the secret guardians of the secret guardians hall have to go into isolated cultivation like the Centurion. Who's going to be in charge of things? What about the Emperor? Chu Li raised his eyebrows and smiled. Looks like he's going to force me to go back. That's my plan. Yang Zongwen smiled bitterly. Why? Chu Li asked. There's another case of family extermination in the divine capital. It's a headless case. The murderer didn't leave any clues, so there's nothing to investigate. Yang Zongwen shook his head. The secret guardian's hall is helpless. Qin Donghai of Mei Yi Courtyard is up to no good in recommending you, Centurion. Chu Li scoffed. Qin Donghai, I've thoroughly criticized the Centurion, but it's useless. Yang Zongwen sighed. Guyu trusts Qin Donghai more, so he wants you to investigate this case. I'm currently in isolated cultivation, Chu Li replied. Yang Zongwen said, Centurion, you should go into hiding. I will go back and report that the Centurion is not here. Chu Li nodded slowly. Is this case very tricky? The Ning brothers can't do anything about it. Yang Zongwen frowned. They're very efficient. There's nothing left at the scene. What about the martial arts? It's a strange palm energy that can break a person's soul. The victim died instantly, but he didn't suffer. Can't you find out which sex martial arts are from? I've never seen it before. It's probably not a martial art from the Ji dynasty. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. He was itching to catch this person. He wanted to see what martial arts it was, and if he could recognize it. He read the scene from Yang Zongwen's mind. Unfortunately, Yang Zongwen was not him. He could not see inside the body, and could only see the external injuries. It was useless. Yang Zongwen knew that the Centurion was tempted when he saw his expression and wanted to investigate. Centurion, it's better if you don't do anything. Yang Zongwen said, this case is still being suppressed. I don't think it'll be hidden for long. Soon, everyone in the divine capital will know about it. Chu Li nodded. News spread the fastest in the divine capital. In less than a day, it would spread to every household in the divine capital. A massacre case like this was extremely sensational. In the blink of an eye, it would spread from the east side of the city to the west side. Although the emperor didn't say much, he's the newly appointed deputy commander. If he can't solve this case as soon as possible, the emperor aside, everyone will think that he's useless. If Commander Su is here, he'll definitely solve it quickly, Yang Zongwen said. In comparison, he'll seem even more useless. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. Yang Zongwen said, he's under a lot of pressure now. That's why he wants you to come out and solve the case. I think it's not the right time yet. He needs to be tested a little more. Chu Li smiled. All right, let's wait and see then. Yang Zongwen smiled. Let him know the importance of a Centurion. It's not something he can easily manipulate. He needs to be careful and figure out the location. Chu Li nodded. How are you guys? He's good to us. He knows how to buy people's hearts, Yang Zongwen said. Chu Li said, that's good. Don't worry and stay here. Yes, I'll leave as soon as I can. I can't stay for long. Yang Zongwen said, I still have to report back. Go. Chu Li nodded. Yang Zongwen returned to the secret guardian's hall and went to the main hall to meet Guyu. Guyu's expression was solemn. When he saw Yang Zongwen enter, he asked, did you see him? Yang Zongwen shook his head. I waited in King An's imperial residence for a while, but I didn't see him. The protectors said that he's not in the residence. He's already gone out to cultivate in isolation. I don't know where he'll be and when he'll be back. Bastard! Guyu slammed the table, and a corner of it fell to the ground. Yang Zongwen was secretly shocked. He did not expect Guyu to have such a profound cultivation level. The table was not made of ordinary wood. It was fine with a treasure sword, but it was difficult to cut off the corner with a normal sword. Guyu stared coldly at Yang Zongwen. So we can't count on him? Yang Zongwen said, I think he's still in the residence. He just doesn't want to come out and see me. I can't possibly search him myself. So what if I search him? Guyu said coldly. Liang said, Commander Gu, things are different now. It's difficult to search the imperial residence of these princes. They dare to send protectors to stop us. Rebel against them. Guyu sneered. The secret guardian's hall is the emperor's sword. How dare they ignore the emperor? Back then, King Yin's princess consort personally killed 2 secret guardians. She even went to the palace to see the emperor and caused quite a ruckus. Liang shook his head. Since then, the status of the secret guardians has plummeted. Not only did the emperor not punish the princess consort, he even allowed Chief Chu to enter the secret guardian's hall. If he pisses me off, I'll personally bring people to King An's imperial residence to capture him. Guyu scoffed. Chapter 3766. That's right. Guyu nodded and looked at Liang approvingly. You're the cleverest. Centurion Shun is up to no good by recommending Centurion Chu. Liang shook his head. He's indebted to Centurion Chu, but he views Centurion Chu as his enemy. This is a trap for Centurion Chu. Guyu said, I know they don't get along. That's why Centurion Chen's words can't be trusted. Liang said, in my opinion, the Mayer courtyard, where Centurion Chu is not around, is indeed not as elite as the Mei courtyard. We still have to put pressure on the Mei courtyard for this case. They're still very powerful. All right, tell Chen Donghai to catch the murderer within 3 days, or he'll be held accountable. Guyu said. Liang gave a fist salute. Yes. Guyu looked up at Yang Zongwen. Little Yang, what do you have to say? I disagree. I agree with you. Yang Zongwen shook his head. Centurion Chun is up to no good by recommending Centurion Chu, but it's also the truth. We all know Centurion Chun. He's a dog and is very protective of his food. If he can solve the case, he'll do everything possible to get his hands on it instead of pushing it away like this. They're not confident, and it's useless to force them. Guyu said, does that mean that Chu Li is the only one who can solve this case? Yang Zongwen nodded. I know Centurion Chu's ability best. No one can solve this case. Only Centurion Chu has a glimmer of hope. There's no need to waste Centurion Chen's time. It's more important to invite Centurion Chu back. The problem now is that we can't invite Centurion Chu back. Liang scoffed. Yang Zongwen said, I think Centurion Chu can't refuse Commander Gu's visit. I'm here. Guyu scoffed and shook his head. How dare he? Yang Zongwen quickly said, Commander Gu, this isn't the time to talk about face. You might have face in front of Centurion Chu, but you'll lose face in front of the Emperor. I'd rather lose face in front of the Emperor than lose face in front of Chu Li. Guyu said coldly. Yang Zongwen sighed and shook his head. Liang said, this Centurion Chu is really too much. He's forcing Commander Gu to lower her head. Yang Zongwen sighed and said, Centurion Chu is proud and arrogant. There's nothing we can do about it. He's in closed-door training right now. What can we do to him? Guyu sneered. I'll personally meet the Emperor and ask him to take charge of this case. Let's see if he'll obey the order. Liang hurriedly said, Isn't this a big deal? I'm not afraid of blowing things up. I don't believe I can't suppress him. Guyu scoffed. Since you said that Qin Donghai can't solve this case, then don't let him. I'm going to the palace now. With that, he turned around and strode away. Liang glanced at Yang Zongwen. Yang Zongwen shook his head helplessly. Now that things had developed to this point, it was out of his control. It was beyond his imagination. He did not expect Guyu to be so capricious. He did not care that the emperor would look down on him. Even a prince would not dare to be so careless. The emperor was busy every day, so how could he have the time to care about such a small matter? If he begged the emperor like this, the emperor would certainly look down on him. He could not suppress a subordinate and was incompetent. However, it would also let the emperor know that the centurion was unruly. It was not a good thing. It was a lose-lose situation. Guyu acted quickly. The imperial house did things swiftly and decisively. 2 hours later, 2 imperial house protectors dressed in black arrived outside the imperial residence of King Un and shouted, "The emperor has issued an order. Chief Chu Li of King An's imperial residence, please receive the order." His voice was like a bell that resounded throughout the entire imperial residence. Everyone could hear it clearly. The gates of King An's imperial residence opened quickly. More than 10 gorgeously dressed maids came out first. Several scribes quickly laid out a white carpet. "The princess is here," one of the scribes shouted. Co Shi was dressed in white, revealing her beautiful face. She calmly walked out of the imperial residence with a graceful bearing. Xuanning Yu and Song Luiying followed behind her. They were dignified and beautiful. The 3 women stepped on the white carpet and stood at the bottom of the stairs of the imperial residence. They curtsied to the 2 imperial house protectors and stood there quietly. Co Shi's beautiful face looked like it was carved out of white jade. It was crystal clear and warm, radiating brilliance. Xuanning Yu and Song Luiying were graceful and elegant. "Where is Chu Li?" one of the imperial house protectors shouted. He was a burly middle-aged man. His face was solemn. When he saw that Chu Li did not appear, he frowned and said, "Is he going to defy the order?" "Sir, Chief Chu is not in the imperial residence. He can't receive the order," Co Shi said lightly. "He's not in the imperial residence." The other imperial house protectors said, "Princess Co, you can't lie in front of the order. It's a crime that will result in the annihilation of your entire family." He was a skinny old man. He wore a black robe that had been washed so many times that it had turned white. He looked like he was living a poor life. However, the imperial house protectors never had to worry about money. It could only be that he was a simple person. Co Shi said, "If he's not here, then he's not here. What's there to lie about? Moreover, it's an honor to have the order. If he's here, how can we miss it?" "He's really not here?" the old imperial house protector asked. Xiao Shi furrowed her brows and looked at him impatiently. "Are you guys done yet? How about this? You guys send a team over and surround the imperial residence. Search every corner. If you find him, then capture him." "Hee, Princess Co, of course we won't do that." The old imperial house protector laughed. The middle-aged imperial house protector said, "Princess Co, are you giving us a hard time?" "So what if I'm giving you a hard time?" Co Shi said angrily. "So what if I'm giving you a hard time? Censure? Sincerity? Si Hui Zhong? Si Hang? Hui Zhong. All right, we'll read it. It's the same if the princess passes it on." The old imperial house protector smiled. He was old and had a mild temper. He knew Co Shi's temper and nature very well. She was not afraid of anything and was not inferior to men. More importantly, she had a strong foundation. As a lady of the public house, no matter how much trouble she caused, the emperor would not blame her. Co Shi said angrily, "I can't even see him. How can I pass it on? Is Chief Chu not returning to the imperial residence?" He went out to look for a place to isolate himself. He said he wanted to stay away from the mundane affairs. Co Shi said, "It's to avoid the trivial matters of the imperial residence. How can he let us find him?" The 2 of them hesitated. The middle-aged imperial house protector's face was pale. He had never seen someone so arrogant. She did not give them any face and even rejected them impatiently. It was despicable, but there was nothing he could do about it. The old imperial house protector smiled. "No matter what, since we're here, we can't just go back without reading it. Let's do it first. Whatever you want." Co Shi said impatiently, "Hurry up and do it." "All right." The old imperial house protector opened the bright yellow imperial edict in his hand and said loudly, "The edict is to order the secret guardians hall's centurion Chu Li to immediately investigate the case of the Feng family's annihilation. He is to apprehend the murderer within 10 days without delay." Chapter 3767. P.S. Update complete. Xiaoshi waved her hand and said, I don't dare to accept it. I don't know when he'll return within 10 days. It's better to take it back and let the emperor decide. Princess Xiao, I don't think that's appropriate, the elderly imperial house guard said in a deep voice. Xiaoshi rolled her eyes at him. Then I'll just accept the imperial edict? We still don't know where Chu Li is. Sigh. The old guard shook his head helplessly. Going against the emperor won't end well. Co. Shi's face darkened, and she said coldly, So what you're saying is that Chu Li is in the public house, purposely avoiding the imperial decree. Is that right? Well, of course not. The old imperial house guard shook his head. He's not that rebellious. Since you know it's treacherous, you still dare to say such things. Xiaoshi's jade-like face tensed up, and she sneered. What are your intentions? Sister Xiao, forget it, Song Luiying said softly. This protector only made a slip of the tongue. Yes, Princess Song is right. The old guard of the imperial house quickly nodded. Xiaoshi rolled her eyes at Song Luiying and scoffed. Sister Song, you're such a good person. Did he make a mistake? I think he has sinister intentions. When he returns to the Forbidden Palace, he will definitely slander him in front of His Majesty. I will personally go to the Imperial Palace and ask His Majesty what he wants. The old guard's expression changed slightly. He quickly smiled and said, There's no need for Princess Co. to make such a big fuss. I meant well by what I said. Good intentions? Co. Shi said coldly. How dare you say something like that? Aren't you ashamed? The old Imperial House Guard was in a sorry state. He smiled bitterly and said, I really don't have any ill intentions. Please don't take it to heart, Princess Co. The middle-aged guard of the Imperial House felt extremely aggrieved, and he wanted nothing more than to yell at her. How could such a beautiful woman be so overbearing? It was truly uncomfortable to look at her. Xiaoshi said, Fine, I'll spare you this time. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being merciless. Yes. The old Imperial House Guard nodded helplessly. He quickly cupped his fists and bade farewell, holding the imperial edict in his hand. Both of them left the imperial residence of King and walked along the main road towards the imperial house. He turned around and saw Co. Shi and the others entering the residence. The middle-aged imperial house protector could not help but scoff. Elder Lu, is there need to give in to this Princess Co? She's so domineering, it's unheard of. Sigh, this is our ancestor. We can't afford to offend him. The old Imperial House Guard shook his head helplessly. She's just a princess. So what if she's the lady of the High Duke's public house? The middle-aged Imperial House Protector scoffed. The old guard glanced at him and said helplessly, Little G, you might not know this, but Princess Co has a good relationship with the Empress. The Empress is very pleased with her and will grant any request she has. If Princess Co were to enter the palace and speak ill of me to the Empress, the Emperor might transfer me out of the Imperial Palace with just a whisper from the Empress. Don't you think I'm someone we can't afford to offend? Is she that close to the Empress? The Empress was the one who arranged the marriage back then. She wanted King and to marry her, the old Imperial House Protector said. Even if the Empress is the one who arranged the marriage, there's no need to dote on her so much, is there? The middle-aged Imperial House Guard asked in confusion. The old Imperial House Protector sighed. Princess Co is also an outstanding woman. In order to support the High Duke's public house, she took the initiative to marry King, and otherwise, she could have lived freely in the High Duke's public house. She didn't have to leave the High Duke's public house to come to the fairy's capital and marry a man 20 years older than her. I see. The middle-aged Imperial House Protector nodded slowly. His expression softened a little. It was indeed not easy for him to achieve this, and he was worthy of respect. The Emperor respects her character and likes her very much. In the Emperor's eyes, no one can compare to her. The elderly Imperial House Guard shook his head and said, It's even more impossible for us. Moreover, they're family, and we're outsiders. Guyu returned to the secret Guardian's Hall with a gloomy face. When they arrived at the hall, Liang and Yang Zhongwen were both present. Seeing him come in, The two of them hurriedly got up to welcome him. Liang asked, "Commander Gu, did His Majesty really issue an edict?" "Oomph." Gu Yu sneered. "This Chu Li is really arrogant. He doesn't even give face to the emperor. Did he disobey the imperial edict?" Yang Zongwen was shocked. "That can't be. Centurion Chu wouldn't be so unwise. It was fine to go against Gu Yu, but going against the emperor was courting death. Being hated by the emperor meant that there was no way he could survive. He didn't disobey the imperial edict, but it's not far from it." Gu Yu sneered. "Since he refused to meet and accept the imperial edict, the emperor won't be happy. He'll definitely find a chance to deal with him." "Commander Gu, is it possible that Centurion Chu isn't here?" Liang frowned. "In my opinion, Centurion Chu is a very prudent person. He wouldn't do something like this." "That's great." Gu Yu smiled. "Yang Zongwen and?" Liang immediately understood Gu Yu's plan when he saw Gu Yu's reaction. The key was not whether Centurion Chu was here or not, but the emperor's impression of Centurion Chu had been ruined. He must be angry and would find a chance to deal with Centurion Chu. Gu Yu's method was vicious. He directly used the emperor to deal with Centurion Chu. Both of them were terrified when they thought of this. No matter how powerful a person was, they were as insignificant as an ant in the face of the emperor. There was no way they could survive after offending the emperor. This move was too ruthless. "Commander Gu, if that's the case, it's impossible to solve it," Liang said. Gu Yu sneered. "I don't believe that the Secret Guardian's Hall can't solve a case without Chu Li." Liang smiled bitterly. "It's fine if it's any other case, but there are too few clues in this case. I'm afraid it won't be solved. In the past, cases like this were always left unsolved. Let Chun Donghai investigate," Gu Yu said coldly. "Give him 3 days to catch the murderer." "Yes." Both of them helplessly responded. They knew that Gu Yu was determined to fight for justice. It all depended on Chun Donghai's luck. If he really solved the case, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely. When the imperial edict was read, Chu Li was not in King An's imperial residence. He was in Gale City. He returned to a residence not far from the Radiance clan and said to Shao Jie, "Ask Coach Xiong to come see me." "Yes." Shao Jie responded hesitantly. Chu Li frowned and looked at her. "What happened?" Shao Jie whispered. "The clan leader and the others are injured." Chu Li glanced around. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw Coach Xiong and the others lying in a gazebo in the backyard. He disappeared in a flash and appeared in front of the 3 people in the backyard. Coach Xiong, Lu Shu, and Feng Wuji were pale. They were lying on a low couch and basking in the bright sun. The backyard was extremely quiet. They soon realized that the sunlight was blocked and opened their eyes to see Chu Li, young master. The 3 of them smiled bitterly. Chu Li scoffed. "Were you beaten up?" Coach Xiong looked embarrassed. "Young master, we messed up. Not only did we not beat them up, we were also beaten up." "Did that kid do it?" Chu Li asked coldly. Coach Xiong nodded. "I didn't expect that kid to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. We thought he was a sheep, but he suddenly turned into a wolf and beat us up. Fortunately, he didn't dare to kill us, young master." "Is he that strong?" Chu Li frowned. Coach Xiong said, "He seemed to be waiting for us to make a move, so he used his secret skill first. We couldn't react in time, and he finished us off in just a few moves." Chapter 3768. Chu Li bent down and checked their pulses. "They won't die." He took out a shiny white porcelain bottle. "One for each of you." This was the healing medicine he brought back from the Great Light Peak. It was more powerful than normal medicine. He thought he would not need it, but he still needed it. Coach Xiong took the white porcelain bottle with both hands and smiled. "Thank you, young master. You were hit by the white tiger killing skill. You've underestimated him." Chu Li muttered. "He fought against 3 of you and still defeated you?" As he spoke, he retrieved the images from Coach Xiong and the others' minds. He scoffed and shook his head. "Rest well, young master. We've embarrassed ourselves," Coach Xiong said helplessly. "I didn't expect his white tiger killing skill to surpass his cultivation level. He's almost the same as you, young master. We still have to be careful of him." Zhao Day's cultivation level was lower than theirs, and he was one of the few in Gale City. However, he had cultivated the light blade to its peak and was invincible in Gale City. Under such circumstances, he was most afraid of the Tian Luo sect. The Tian Luo sect's musical assassination technique was a battle of inner energy. No matter how powerful Zhao Day's light blade was, he could only endure the musical assassination technique's attack. Soon, he would die from the musical assassination technique. However, Tian Luo's sect had a good relationship with Zhao Day and did not attack him. Therefore, no one in Gale City could stop him. Many people thought that Tian Luo's sect was afraid of the Holy Church of Light. Chu chatted with them for a while before returning to the small residence near the Roaring Tiger clan. He sat on the couch and observed Zheng Tianhe, the White Tiger sect disciple in the Roaring Tiger clan. Zheng Tianhe sat by the stone table in his courtyard and squinted as he basked in the sun. He closed his eyes and smirked. He looked lazy and proud. Chu observed the situation in his mind and compared it with Ko Qiong and the others so he could simulate what happened that night. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Zheng Tianhe walked slowly in an alley. He had just returned from 9-Star Tower and was ready to take a shortcut to return to the Roaring Tiger clan. In 9-Star Tower, he felt slightly tipsy after drinking a pot of wine. This kind of feeling intoxicated him, and he couldn't bear to use his energy to expel it. He was immersed in this wonderful feeling. He stepped on the bluestone path silently, feeling the cool breeze and the bright moon. It was pleasant and wonderful. Compared to his arduous cultivation on the mountain, Gale City was much more beautiful, and he was addicted to it. He would not hesitate to eliminate anyone who dared to ruin his life, especially Zhao Day. He sneered. Zhao Day was a genius, but so was he. Even if Zhao Day killed the elders of the sect, he would not be able to kill him. Unfortunately, Zhao Day had returned to the Great Light Peak and was not here. Hence, Chu could not have a good fight with him and had no chance to kill him. Without Zhao Day, he would be the king of Gale City and no one would be able to threaten him. All of a sudden, a sense of foreboding rose in his heart, and the tipsy feeling disappeared all of a sudden. The inner energy in his body surged, and he activated the White Tiger killing skill with all his might. He was extremely talented in cultivating the White Tiger killing skill, and it was far better than the White Tiger power. Ko Qiong and the other two rushed out of the darkness. Roar! 3 tiger roars sounded out at almost the same time, facing the 3 of them. Ko Qiong and the other 2 were slightly flustered. They did not expect their sneak attack to turn into a sneak attack. Initially, they had looked down on Zheng Tianhe as his cultivation level was just average and could not compare to any of them. However, to play it safe and not mess up their young master's orders, the 3 of them attacked at the same time. It was like a lion fighting a rabbit with all its might, so they could not help but look down on him. They did not expect that the rabbit would strike first when they wanted to attack the rabbit. They were flustered and barely managed to dodge the White Tiger killing skill. Before they could catch their breath and counterattack, another 3 tiger silhouettes entangled the 3 of them. This time, they were even more flustered. Their solid cultivation level allowed them to dodge the tiger silhouettes at the last moment, even though they were in a sorry state. However, the 3 tiger silhouettes appeared again, and this time they were hit. Zheng Tianhe did not let them off easily. Another 3 tiger silhouettes appeared and hit them squarely. They lay on the ground and could not get up. Once the White Tiger killing skill was hit, its power was shocking and it caused severe damage to one's body. Zheng Tianhe, we're from the Radiance clan. How dare you kill us? Lu Shu sat at the foot of the wall and raised his head to shout. Be careful. Our young master will settle the score with you. The Radiance clan. Zheng Tianhe looked down at the 3 of them and sneered. I didn't cause any trouble for the Radiance clan, but the Radiance clan came to me first. Very well. He released another 3 tiger silhouettes. Bang, bang, bang. Ko Qiong and the other 2 flew up from the ground and crashed heavily into the stone wall of the alley. The blood they spat fell on the wall, but it was only visible under the moonlight. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 of them landed on the ground. Their bodies were spasming, and they were already exhaling more than they were inhaling. Zheng Tianhe looked down at the three of them and sneered. Zhao Dai killed our White Tiger sex elders, so I'll kill the Radiance clan's people. Let's see if he has the ability to kill me. Ko Qiong and the other two were annoyed and angry as they glared at him. They could not believe that they had failed to figure out this fellow's background. He had delivered himself to their doorstep, but he had been pecked in the eye by the eagle. Zheng Tianhe looked at them indifferently. Will the Radiance clan disband without you guys? Don't worry. I'll make it disappear even if it doesn't. Haha, when Zhao Dai returns and sees the Radiance clan dispersing, he'll be able to feel our pain. He'll definitely come for me, right? You're no match for our master. Ko Qiong wiped the blood from his mouth and said reluctantly. Zheng Tianhe said indifferently, Why am I here? It's to kill him. Do you really think that Zhao Dai can suppress the White Tiger sect? He hasn't even sent his experts. What a joke. You. Ko Qiong gritted his teeth. How arrogant. You want to kill our master with your abilities? Dream on. Oh, you can think whatever you want. You'll be dead anyway. It's a pity that you won't be able to see it. Zheng Tianhe shook his head calmly and put his palms together. 3 tiger silhouettes appeared again and attacked Ko Qiong and the other two. Bang, bang, bang. They flew up again and crashed heavily against the wall. Then they slid down limply and fainted. Zheng Tianhe smiled faintly and turned to leave. He was very confident in his white tiger killing skill. They would not be able to survive this attack. Someone would find their corpses the next morning. By then, they would be stiff and could only be revived by a grand, overarching heavenly immortal. He shook his head and slowly walked past the 3 of them. Then, he left the alley step by step. The alley quickly returned to silence, as if nothing had happened. After a long while, Ko Qiong opened his eyes and took out a jade bottle from his robe with trembling hands. He poured out a pill and put it into his mouth. It took him about 10 minutes to drink a cup of tea before the pill reached his mouth. He was so exhausted that he almost collapsed to the ground, unable to move at all. After taking a breath, he took out the jade bottles from Lu Shu's and Feng Wuji's chests, took out the spirit blessing pills, and stuffed them into their mouths. Then he lay down on the ground, panting like a fish that had jumped onto the shore. His life was finally saved. Chu Li sat in the courtyard and pondered. He knew that Zheng Tianhe had the intention to kill him. However, other than Yang Ying, all the White Tiger sect disciples wanted to kill him. Zheng Tianhe was no exception, so it was not strange. Chapter 3769. Zheng Tianhe squinted his eyes as he sat on the stone table lazily like a cat. The sun was so bright that it almost melted him. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Come in, Zheng Tianhe said lazily. A middle-aged man opened the small courtyard door and approached. He bowed and greeted clan leader. The middle-aged man was dressed in green. He was handsome and had a free and easy temperament. However, he remained humble in front of Zheng Tianhe. He bowed slightly and looked at Zheng Tianhe with a smile. He quietly waited for Zheng Tianhe to speak without disturbing him. He was Hu Ye, the deputy clan leader of the Roaring Tiger clan. The clan leader of the Roaring Tiger clan was an official disciple of the White Tiger sect. It was just a title. The management depended on each person's preference, but all the trivial matters were handled by Hu Ye, the deputy clan leader. He was awe-inspiring in front of the disciples of Roaring Tiger Hall, but he was as humble as a servant in front of Zheng Tianhe. He never disobeyed Zheng Tianhe and obeyed all of Zheng Tianhe's orders. He was truly a vice hall leader. After a while, Zheng Tianhe asked lazily, Is there any news? No, clan leader. Hu Ye shook his head. The Radiance clan is very quiet. No news of their deaths. Zheng Tianhe frowned. No, Hu Ye replied. Zheng Tianhe scoffed. Could it be that they've come back to life? Go and investigate again. Also, send someone to the Radiance clan. I want to see if they're dead or not. Yes, Hu Ye said. I'll personally bring some people over to cause trouble. They're weak and not worth mentioning. All right, go, Zheng Tianhe said faintly. I'm too lazy to deal with a few repulsive people. You might as well just destroy the Radiance clan. This, Huya pondered and hesitated. Clan leader, this what? Zheng Tianhe opened his eyes and looked at him. Huya had never disobeyed him. This time, he was out of character, which made Zheng Tianhe very uncomfortable. Huya bit the bullet and said helplessly, "Shouldn't you think about it and be more cautious? Killing the three of them is different from destroying the Radiance clan." "What are you afraid of?" Zheng Tianhe said faintly. "The Radiance clan's revenge? I'm not afraid of the Radiance clan. I'm afraid of the Holy Church of Light." Huya said in a low voice, "If something happens to the Radiance clan this time, the Holy Church of Light will definitely go crazy. I'm afraid that our Roaring Tiger clan won't be able to survive. If the Holy Church of Light wanted to take revenge, the Roaring Tiger clan would be the first to bear the brunt. If they went all out, the Roaring Tiger clan would be destroyed overnight. By the time the White Tiger sect reacted and retaliated, the Roaring Tiger clan had already been annihilated. His subordinates and even himself were already dead and could not be resurrected. I'll bear all the consequences. Just do as I say." Zheng Tianhe's face darkened as he stared at him coldly. Seeing his expression, Huya knew that if he continued to resist, he would probably fight. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. He quickly said, Yes. Since Hall Master has thought it through, I will do as you say. I will go through fire and water without hesitation." "Very good, go ahead." Zheng Tianhe waved his hand, squinted his eyes, and began to bask in the sun. As the Deputy Hall Master, Huya could command his subordinates like an extension of his arm. Soon, he brought 30 masters to the Radiance clan. The Radiance clan currently only had 10 disciples. Firstly, the standards of the Radiance clan's disciples were high. They only accepted those who were above the perfected innate stage. Secondly, the other 3 sects were poaching them, making it extremely difficult for them to recruit disciples. However, with the Holy Church of Light's reputation, there were disciples who resisted the temptation and joined the Radiance clan. They now had 2 Grandmasters and 8 perfected innate stage masters. They should not be underestimated. Huya brought 30 masters with him to ensure that nothing went wrong and completely destroy the Radiance clan. He was slightly worried. There were many people guarding the clan, but few masters. Fortunately, they had no opponents other than the Radiance clan. They had a tacit understanding with the other 2 sections. Even if they fought, they would only fight on a small scale. In order to unite the disciples' morale, they would not slack off. Huya was certain that he could destroy the Radiance clan with these masters and launch a surprise attack. Since he could not disobey the Hall Master's orders, he had to be thorough and not be half-hearted. Otherwise, he would not be able to destroy the Radiance clan. Not only would he suffer losses from the Hall Master, but the Hall Master would also think that he was not doing his best because of his opposition. He would also offend the Radiance clan. It would be ridiculous if he could not get along with both sides. They were imposing. When they arrived at the Radiance clan, they found that the Radiance clan was empty. There was no one there. It seemed that everyone in the Radiance clan had withdrawn and abandoned this place. Otherwise, even if something happened outside and all the Radiance clan's disciples were mobilized, they would still leave a few people behind to guard the door. "Hall Master, why don't we plunder this place?" A disciple from the Roaring Tiger clan asked with a smile. The people had left, but the items were still there. They could search carefully and find the place where the Radiance clan hid their treasures. It would not be a wasted trip. All right, plunder it. Huya gritted his teeth. Since he had offended them, he would offend them to the end. From today onwards, the Roaring Tiger clan and the Radiance clan would fight and become real enemies. Yes, the masters were elated. They could plunder things effortlessly and did not have to hand over the items to the Roaring Tiger clan. This was a rare opportunity. They spread out in all directions and were about to plunder the house when a loud noise suddenly exploded in the sky. A fierce tiger pattern flashed in the sky. Under the clear sunlight, this black pattern was particularly eye-catching. It was like a thick black cloud floating in the sky. Everyone could see it. "Oh no, let's return to the clan quickly." Huya's expression changed drastically. The others also felt that something was wrong. Most of the masters in the clan had come over. There were only 2 masters among the 100 or so people left in the clan. There were not even any grandmasters. If the people from the Radiance clan went to the clan, they could imagine the situation. Zheng Tianhe looked at Zhao De, who was standing in the courtyard with a gloomy expression. In this courtyard, he could see the signal in the sky and hear the screams and curses coming from the Roaring Tiger clan. He could imagine that the Roaring Tiger clan's disciples were being defeated. He stared at Chu Li gloomily. "Who are you?" Alarm bells rang in his mind. The person in front of him was a top-notch master. His instincts told him to escape, but he forced himself to suppress it. The other party had already come to their house, and he could not retreat. He could only fight to the death. "You don't know who I am?" Chu Li looked at him indifferently and looked down at him. "Aren't you here to kill me? Don't you have a portrait of me in the White Tiger sect?" "Zhao De." Zheng Tianhe suddenly realized and asked coldly, "What's going on outside? You want to destroy the Radiance clan. Why should the Radiance clan be polite?" Chu Li said coldly, "I'd like to see whether you'll destroy my Radiance clan or the Radiance clan will destroy your Roaring Tiger clan." Zheng Tianhe sneered. "You're just 10 masters. You want to destroy the Roaring Tiger clan? What a joke. You won't know if you don't try." Chu Li said calmly, "Your White Tiger killing skill is superb. You can try." Chapter 3770. Zheng Tianhe knew how powerful Chu Li's light blade was. He knew that it was crucial to distance himself from the light blade. Otherwise, he would not be able to block Chu Li's light blade, even if he was wearing his treasured clothing. After all, his head was not protected by the treasured clothing, and the light blade was too fast. Chu Li scoffed. "Isn't it too late to escape now?" He stepped behind Zheng Tianhe, and a white light flashed. Zheng Tianhe lowered his head, and the saber chi brushed past the back of his head, cutting off a few strands of hair. Zheng Tianhe was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. Bam, 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 bam. Chu Li waved both of his hands, and streaks of blade energy shot towards Zheng Tianhe. Zheng Tianhe flew into the air, powerless to command the condensed and agile tiger shadow. The tiger silhouette crashed into the wall and created a large hole with a bang. Its power was shocking, and it had the ability to injure Chu Li. The light blades rained down from the sky. Zheng Tianhe wanted to dodge, but he could not. The treasured armor could protect him from the flying blades, but each blade was like a flying boulder that shook his blood and chi. He could not circulate his inner energy properly and could not use any of his martial arts. He could only passively endure the attacks and hold on. Chu Li's inner energy seemed to be limitless. Streaks of blade aura struck Zheng Tianhe. Zheng Tianhe flew up, fell down, flew up again, fell down again, and had no power to resist. After a while, Chu Li stopped his light blade and stood in front of Zheng Tianhe. Blood gushed out of Zheng Tianhe's mouth as he glared at him. Chu Li shook his head. "Someone like you still wants to kill me. You." Zheng Tianhe gritted his teeth and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Kill me if you have the guts." Chu Li could not help but laugh. "I've already killed a few elders of the White Tiger sect. You won't make a difference. Do you think I won't have the guts to kill you?" As soon as he finished speaking, he punched Zheng Tianhe's lower abdomen and crippled his martial arts. "You." Zheng Tianhe glared at him, wanting nothing more than to kill him. What was the difference between destroying his martial arts and killing him? Chu Li laughed coldly. "Do you think that I won't dare to kill you just because you have a good father?" He found out from Zheng Tianhe's mind that Zheng Tianhe's father, Zheng Yanwu, was a reclusive master of the White Tiger sect who was more than 100 years old. When they were over 100 years old, they would no longer go out into the world. Instead, they would live in seclusion or cultivate in the mountains. Zheng Tianhe was only in his 20s, while Zheng Yanwu had a son at an old age. Coupled with Zheng Tianhe's outstanding aptitude, Zheng Yanwu had painstakingly nurtured him. Zheng Tianhe was indignant when he heard of Zhao De's reputation. He felt that he could defeat Zhao De. If he killed Zhao De, No one would say that he was Zheng Yinwu's son. Instead, they would say that Zheng Yinwu was Zheng Tianhe's father. Although Zhao Dai was a genius, he was definitely no match for him. Zheng Yinwu had given birth to his son at an old age and doted on him so much that he had developed a stubborn temperament. Thinking that without Zhao Dai, there was no one in Gale City who could threaten Zheng Tianhe, he relented and allowed him to come to Gale City. Zheng Tianhe said, "If you kill me, my father will definitely descend the mountain to kill you. I would like to meet your father," Chu Li said slowly. After he finished speaking, he swung his hand and a knife shot towards Zheng Tianhe's forehead. Zheng Tianhe's eyes widened in disbelief as the light in his eyes slowly dimmed. In the end, he breathed his last. Chu Li extended his hand, and the flying blade that had burrowed into the ground flew into his hand. He wiped the blade on Zheng Tianhe's body and glided out of the courtyard. Everyone was in the midst of a fierce battle. 10 Radiance clan masters formed a circle and rolled forward like gears toward the surrounding roaring Tiger clan disciples. Chu Li raised his voice and shouted, "Zheng Tianhe is dead. It's useless for you to struggle. Surrender and get out of Gale City." "Impossible. The clan leader can't be dead," someone shouted. They knew that Zheng Tianhe was one of the few geniuses in White Tiger sect. It was impossible for him to die just like that. Chu Li scoffed. "Why won't he come out if he's not dead?" He took a few steps to the main entrance and looked at Hu Ye and the others who were rushing over. Hu Ye's heart sank when he saw Chu Li. He waved his hand, and everyone stopped moving. They stood beside him and stared at Chu Li. Zheng Tianhe did not recognize Chu Li, but they did. Chu Li had barged into Roaring Tiger Clan and was insufferably arrogant. Now that he had joined Great Light Peak and returned, his martial arts had become stronger. They were no match for him. Chu Li shook his head. "Clan leader who? You're too late. Zheng Tianhe is dead." "Dead?" Hu Ye's expression changed. "Clan leader Zhao, you've made a huge mistake." Chu Li scoffed. "It's just Zheng Yinwu. Look at how scared you are. Do you still want to fight? What do you want?" Hu Ye gritted his teeth. Chu Li said, "Roaring Tiger Clan will belong to Radiance Clan from now on." "Impossible." Hu Ye shook his head. Chu Li burst into laughter. "I'm not discussing this with you." He took out a flying blade and held it between his fingers. The flying blade slithered around his fingertips like an agile snake. The blade seemed to have lost its hardness as it slithered between his fingers. Hu Ye stared at him coldly. "Clan leader Zhao, do you know what you've done today?" "I only know that you're going to destroy Radiance Clan today." Chu Li scoffed. "If I wasn't here today, Radiance Clan would have been destroyed by you again. Since you don't remember, I'll just destroy you. Do you really think that the Holy Church of Light is afraid of White Tiger sect? This will lead to a war between White Tiger sect and the Holy Church of Light." Hu Ye said coldly, "At this critical time, we should be fighting against our enemies and the Qiu dynasty together. Instead, you're provoking a war between our two sections. What are your intentions?" "I don't care when." Chu Li waved his hand and said impatiently, "I'll only ask you one thing. Are you going to surrender or not?" "All right, I agree." Hu Ye stared at him for a moment before he finally nodded slowly. Chu Li nodded. "You're smart. Is there anyone who doesn't want to surrender?" "I won't surrender to Radiance Clan," a middle-aged man said. "I'm a member of Roaring Tiger Clan when I'm alive, and I'll be a ghost of Roaring Tiger Clan when I die." "Tisk." Chu Li swung his arm. The middle-aged man covered his throat with his eyes wide open. He glared at Chu Li before he slowly fell backward. Chu Li acted as if nothing had happened. He said calmly, "I'll grant your wish. I'll let you become a ghost of Roaring Tiger Clan. Is there anyone else who wants to keep him company? I'll grant your wish so that you won't have to worry about me in the future." Everyone looked at the middle-aged man who was twitching on the ground and trying to breathe. They kept quiet out of fear and dared not say a word. He was a madman now. He would kill whenever he wanted. Whoever stood out would die. "Very well. It seems like you're all sensible. Report to Radiance Clan." Chu Li said, "I'll only take in 30 of you. The rest of Roaring Tiger Clan's disciples are useless. I won't keep them." "Clan leader Zhao, it's against the heavens to kill too many people. Spare their lives." Hu Ye said. You don't have to worry about that. Go. Chu Li waved his hand. Huya took a deep look at the main entrance of Roaring Tiger Clan. The battle cries were still echoing inside, as if it was a different world. Chu Li waved his hand and said, "Once you enter Radiance Clan, you'll be a traitor to the Holy Church of Light if you rebel. You know how the Holy Church of Light treats traitors. As for White Tiger Sect, don't worry. They won't dare to do anything to you." "Yes," Huya replied with a fist salute. Then, he turned around and left with the 29 masters. Chu Li raised his voice. "If any of you want to escape, do it as soon as possible. Become a traitor to the Holy Church of Light, and see if you can escape from being hunted down." Chapter 3771. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction and turned to enter the courtyard. A fierce battle was going on in the Roaring Tiger Clan. Chu Li raised his voice. "All right, Huya and the rest have surrendered. It doesn't matter if the rest surrender or not. Everyone retreat." "Yes." The 10 masters of the Radiance Clan answered in a deep voice. The 10 of them formed a circle and slowly retreated. Almost 100 people watched as they left the Roaring Tiger Clan. When they were outside the clan, some of them had already run to Zheng Tian's courtyard. After a while, a scream was heard. "Clan leader." Chu Li shook his head and nodded at the 10 people standing in front of him. "Very good. You'll be rewarded when we return." "Thank you, clan leader," the men said in unison. Chu Li waved his hand. "Go back." "Yes," the men answered. Chu Li brought the 10 men back to the Radiance Clan. Huya and the other 30 men were already waiting outside the Radiance Clan. When they saw Chu Li, they gave a fist salute. "Let's go. We'll be a family from now on. Let's go in," Chu Li said. Ko Qiong and the other 2 men were already sitting in the Radiance Clan. They recovered quickly after consuming Chu Li's spirit pills. After half a day, they had recovered and no longer looked like they were on the verge of death. They sat steadily in the main hall. When they saw Chu Li return, the 3 men stood up and gave a fist salute. Chu Li waved his hand. From today onward, they belong to the Radiance Clan. Take good care of them. Ko Qiong and the other 2 men looked at Huya and the others in shock. Huya smiled bitterly and gave a fist salute. "Please advise us." Ko Qiong and the other 2 fists saluted. "Young master, they've surrendered to us. What about Roaring Tiger Hall?" Ko Qiong blinked, feeling that his brain was not enough to process the situation. Chu Li replied snappily, "I killed Zheng Tianhe and forced them to surrender. I don't want the remaining 100 or so useless people. I only want these 30 people. That should be enough for our Gale branch, right?" "Young master, you killed Zheng Tianhe?" Ko Qiong asked. Chu Li frowned and said impatiently, "Old Ko, Zheng Tianhe must have hurt your brain." Ko Qiong smiled bitterly and said, Yes, I understand young master's meaning, but Zheng Tianhe cannot be killed. If he can kill you, why can't we kill him?" Chu Li waved his hand and said, "It's too late for you to say that. Those who should be killed have already been killed. Are you trying to save them? Can he be saved?" "No." Sigh. Zheng Tianhe's father is Zheng Yanwu, a reclusive master of the White Tiger Sect. It is said that he was also a famous master 20 years ago. Lu Shu shook his head and sighed. Now that he has a son, the moment he hears that his son has been killed, he will probably disregard the rule of living in seclusion for 100 years and come out to kill young master. "I was just about to learn from you," Chu Li scoffed. In order to truly learn the White Tiger power, a young fellow like Zheng Tianhe would not be able to do so. His cultivation level was still too shallow. Zheng Yanwu might have a chance. For the sake of learning the White Tiger power, taking a little risk was nothing. Ko Qiong and the other 2 looked at his nonchalant expression and knew that there was no point in trying to persuade him. Moreover, they had already killed him, so there was no point in apologizing. They couldn't just cut off their heads and give them to Zheng Yanwu, so they had no choice but to endure. They glanced at Huya and the other 30 people and shook their heads. These people were the elites of the Roaring Tiger Clan, and indeed met the young master's standards. Even the weakest among them was a perfected innate master. However, there were only 10 people from the Radiance Clan, while there were 30 of them. It would not be easy to pacify them. Fortunately, the young master was here to hold the line. As long as they could stop Zheng Yanwu, these people would be completely loyal to the Radiance clan, or rather, to Gale Branch. The key now was whether the young master could stop Zheng Yanwu or not. Young master, why don't we ask for help from the Great Light Peak? Ko Qiong suggested. Chu Li gave him a sidelong glance. Ko Qiong quickly shut his mouth and stopped talking about this. He turned his head and said, Young Jiang, arrange for them. Yes. A thin young man answered loudly. He was handsome and quick-witted. He raised his voice and said, Everyone follow me. I'll find a room for you to stay in. Chu Li glanced at young Jiang and nodded. Jiang Kuai used the bone shrinking technique to change his appearance. With the Li Dynasty's martial arts that Chu Li taught him and his secret identity, no one except him knew that Jiang Kuai had come here. After everyone left, Chu Li said, Look at how scared you are. How can a 100-year-old man be so scary? Young master, don't underestimate martial arts masters who are over 100 years old, Ko Qiong said. I heard that their abilities are very scary. They can't be compared to those who are over 100 years old. Young master, although you said that you can't come back for a few days and have to stay there. If Zheng Yanwu can't find him in Gale City, he'll vent his anger on the Radiance clan. Xiaoqi seemed the same as before. She was still cold, but Chu Li knew her very well. He knew that she was not as cold as before. It was as if she had opened up her heart. It seemed that what he said earlier had worked. Only when one had feelings could one forget them. Xiaoqi no longer deliberately kept him at a distance. Let's go to the Spirit Crane's Peak for isolated cultivation after we come back. Chu Li smiled. The small courtyard was lit up as if it was daytime. The three of them sat at the stone table in the courtyard. Yang Su and Meng Lan were not around. Chapter 3772. Who is it? Co Shi asked curiously. When she saw Chu Li keeping the iron tag, her expression turned serious, and she asked with a smile, Are you afraid of someone? Chu Li frowned and nodded slowly. Co Chi asked softly, What's the matter? 3 heads are better than 1. We could discuss it. Chu Li sighed. The fewer people who know about this, the better. Are you really? Close by-in? Knock. Chu Li answered, It's King Ping. Why did King Ping send someone to see you? Co Shi was puzzled. Are you two related? I made friends with King Ping when I went to the border last time. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. This time, it was really troublesome. Co Chi asked, Did King Ping send someone to see you about Consort Ping's encounter with the assassin? Chu Li nodded. Co Shi's beautiful face darkened, and she frowned. It's troublesome indeed. Chu Li had told them about Consort Ping's case. They knew that the mastermind behind Consort Ping's assassination was not Great Light Peak. Su Huanda had gone to guard the Imperial Mausoleum because the Emperor did not want King Ping to know about this. Once the Emperor knew that Chu Li knew who the mastermind was, he would not be as lenient as Su Huanda and might even be silenced. Chu Li had been covering it up to avoid getting himself killed. He did not expect King Ping to send someone to see him. It was obvious that he wanted to ask about the mastermind. Chu Li would hide it and say that he did not know about it if he wanted to protect himself. However, she knew that Chu Li would not do that based on his temper. You want to tell King Ping? Co Chi asked. Chu Li nodded. It'll only be bad for you. It won't benefit you at all, Co Shi said. Chu Li nodded. Of course, he knew it would not benefit him. However, a person whose wife was killed came to ask about the murderer. Especially King Ping, who had been fighting at the border all year long to protect the civilians from the Li Dynasty's cavalry, could not protect his wife. Co Chi said, If you want to say it, just say it. Chu Li smiled. You won't have a good life in the future. The Emperor will surely bear a grudge against you. You're really stupid. Co Shi shook her head. My blood hasn't turned cold yet. Chu Li said, If you're really that rational, then life is really boring. He had the life and death scripture, so he was more at ease with life and death. Moreover, since the Emperor had the intention to kill, he could only resort to others. He would not do it himself, so it was not that scary. All right, there are plenty of people who are on the Emperor's mind anyway. Co Shi sighed helplessly. Chu Li gave a fist salute and left. Seosher watched as Chu Li left the courtyard. She retracted her clear gaze and glared at Seo Chi. Younger sister, he's willing to listen to you. Why didn't you persuade him? Follow his heart, Seo Chi said. Xiaosher said, King Ping might not appreciate it either. Both sides won't be happy about it. A martial artist's state of mind is very important. If he feels guilty about himself, it will be very difficult for him to achieve much in martial arts, Xiao Qi said. Xiaosher rolled her eyes at her. You're asking for it. Xiao Qi replied, It can't be helped. If he wasn't like this, he wouldn't be worth relying on. Seosher thought about it and nodded helplessly. When Chu Li arrived at his courtyard, a skinny young man was already standing in the courtyard. He gave a fist salute without saying a word. Chu Li took out the iron tag and handed it back to him. Come in and talk. The skinny young man was about 20 years old. He was only as tall as Chu Li's nose. His skin was dark, and his facial features were ordinary. His eyes were dull, and he did not look capable at all. If he was placed in a crowd, no one would notice him. Chu Li brought him into the living room and closed the door. He asked him to sit down while he sat on the armchair. May I know your name? Just call me Xiao Su, Chief, the skinny young man said. Chu Li said, All right, Xiao Su. What orders does the Grand General have for me? This is a letter from the Grand General. Xiao Su took out a letter and handed it to Chu Li. Chu Li took it and opened it. He glanced at it and rubbed his hands together. It turned into powder. Xiao Su's expression did not change. He looked at Chu Li quietly. Chu Li stood up and paced with his hands behind his back. He frowned and did not speak for a long time. Xiao Su did not rush him. He only looked at him quietly. After a while, Chu Li stopped and sighed. You should go back first. I understand. I will personally go to the military camp. Yes, Xiao Su said. The Grand General is actually outside Qing Yin Town. Chu Li's face darkened. Nonsense. It was a huge crime for a general to leave the military camp without permission. A report would be submitted and it would be approved. He would be the end of his career as a general. All he had to do was to return to Fairy's capital obediently and not put the emperor in a difficult position. Xiao Su said, We can't persuade the Grand General. Chu Li sighed and nodded slowly. The Grand General wants to come back to see the princess? Yes. Xiao Su nodded. Chu Li said, Without an imperial edict, the Grand General cannot return to Fairy's capital. Tell him to bear with it for now. The emperor will definitely issue an edict. The Grand General cannot wait. Xiao Su shook his head. Chu Li sighed and nodded slowly. It's human nature. You should go back first. I will look for the Grand General. Yes. Xiao Su fist saluted and turned to leave. Chu Li looked at his back as he left. After a moment of deep thought, he disappeared on the spot. The next moment, he appeared in a forest outside of Qingyin Town. The moonlight was like water. A large and dense forest was located at the foot of a mountain. It was more than 200 meters away from the official road. It was a desolate place. 8 middle-aged men formed a circle and protected an old man with a dark face. The old man was tall and straight like a javelin. Even though he was sitting on a tree stump, he still had an imposing aura. The old man sat in front of a campfire and stared at the dancing flames. He was in a daze. The insects around him were exceptionally clear. His sharp aura revealed a sense of desolation and sorrow. The 8 middle-aged protectors were also filled with killing intent. It made people flinch at the sight of them. Chu Li's sudden appearance was noticed by the 8 middle-aged protectors. Their killing intent immediately surged towards Chu Li. They looked at him coldly. Their gazes were cold and emotionless. They looked at him like he was an ant that could be crushed at any time. Chu Li said in a deep voice, Your Royal Highness. The old man with a dark face turned his head and looked over. He waved his hand and said, Let him in. The 8 middle-aged protectors moved and made a gap. Chu Li entered the circle through the gap and came before the old man. He gave a fist salute and looked at the old man. He smiled and said, Your Royal Highness, your appearance can deceive people. However, those who are really observant can still see through you. King Ping nodded slowly. His eyes were sharp as if he wanted to see through Chu Li. You should know why I'm here. Chu Li nodded. Yes. He could see that King Ping was wearing a mask on his face. It was similar to the mask of the fog beast that he had obtained. However, it was more exquisite than the fog beast's face. Even when he was close to it, he could not tell that there was a mask on it. If it was not for his sharp senses and his ability to see through the body, he would not dare to conclude that this was King Ping. What do you want to teach me? King Ping's eyes became sharper and bloodshot. He was suppressing the turbulence in his heart. Chu Li looked at the 8 middle-aged protectors. King Ping waved his hand and said, "Step back. Stay 100 meters away." "Grand General," a middle-aged protector said in a deep voice. "I'm not that weak." King Ping said in a low voice, "Step back." Chapter 3773. "Say it," King Ping said. Chu Li said, "I know your Royal Highness wants to know the murderer." "Yes." King Ping said, "You and Su Huanda investigated the consort's case. In the end, Su Huanda was sent to guard the Imperial Mausoleum because he couldn't find the truth. This is strange. As far as I know, there's no case that you haven't solved." Chu Li sighed. King Ping said, "Based on my understanding of you, you should have solved this case." Chu Li said, "It's not the Holy Church of Light that your Royal Highness is thinking of." "Who is it?" King Ping asked coldly, his eyes shining like candles. His voice was cold and emotionless, but Chu Li could feel the rage he was suppressing, a rage that could burn everything. Chu Li said, "Zheng Dynasty's mysterious pavilion." "Zheng Dynasty?" King Ping looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, "Everyone thought it was the Li Dynasty. Who knew it was the Zheng Dynasty?" "What is Zheng Dynasty?" King Ping gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. He did not realize it. His eyes were fixed on Chu Li, brighter than the bonfire. It was like a burning flame, as if it wanted to burn everything. Chu Li sighed. "This move is steady, ruthless, and accurate. It directly forced your Royal Highness to send troops to the Li Dynasty. Mysterious pavilion." King Ping let out a long sigh and said, "I'm not wrong, right?" Chu Li said, "If I'm not wrong, it's Mysterious Pavilion, but it's a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. There's something wrong with this disciple of the Holy Church of Light. It's very likely that he's a seed planted by the Zheng Dynasty that hasn't been awakened." "Cunning." King Ping nodded. "The Ji Dynasty is far from that. He hated the Holy Church of Light disciple who did it. He wanted to dig out the corpse and dismember it to appease the hatred in his heart." Chu Li said, "Your Royal Highness, what are you going to do? Mobilize troops for revenge?" "I won't." King Ping said coldly, "If I really do that, my father will immediately take away my military power. I'll swallow my anger." Chu Li looked at him in shock. He had always thought that King Ping would impulsively seek revenge for his consort by sending troops to either the Li Dynasty or the Zheng Dynasty. This was also the Emperor's concern, which was why he had thrown Su Huanda into the Imperial Mausoleum to stop him from talking nonsense. King Ping sneered. "There's still a long way to go. Moreover, it's not that easy to deal with Mysterious Pavilion." Chu Li asked, "Then what does the Royal Highness want to do?" "I'll annihilate the Zheng Dynasty and let everyone in the Zheng Dynasty's Mysterious Pavilion be buried with the princess," King Ping said calmly. Chu Li sighed. "Your Royal Highness had a long way to go. The great Ji Dynasty's primary enemy was the Li Dynasty. In recent years, the Li Dynasty had been trying to invade the East and annex the great Ji Dynasty to strengthen itself. On the other hand, the Ji Dynasty was weak and was only barely holding on because of King Ping's military prowess. Without King Ping, the Li Dynasty would have long broken through the borders and entered the Ji Dynasty's territory to wreak havoc. The Ji Dynasty's vitality would be greatly damaged and would become weaker. In the long run, in less than a few years, the great Ji Dynasty would not be too far from destruction. Of course, the Fu Dynasty would intervene and stop the Li Dynasty from getting their way. However, once the Fu Dynasty intervened, the Ji Dynasty would lose its independence. If they wanted to defeat the Zheng Dynasty when they could not even protect themselves, it would be a pipe dream. However, Chu would not underestimate the power of a person who was bent on revenge. King Ping might be able to do it. If it were him, he would do the same as King Ping and annihilate the mysterious pavilion to avenge the princess. Father knows about this, right? King Ping asked in a low voice. Chu smiled bitterly. What do you think, Your Royal Highness? It's been hard on Su Wanda. King Ping sighed and nodded slowly. It's been hard on you too. He had a sharp mind and figured out the key to this in the blink of an eye. His father's role in this and the risk Chu took. His cold heart suddenly felt a sense of gratitude. If it were someone else, they would not have dared to do what Chu did and bring disaster upon themselves. He stared at Chu and asked, "Why are you helping me?" Chu replied, "I'm not helping you, Your Royal Highness. I just can't stand by and watch. I feel that Your Royal Highness should know who the real enemy is and not be kept in the dark. Aren't you afraid of Father? The Emperor has been testing me to find out if I know the mastermind." Chu smiled. "I've been trying my best to hide it all these days, and I'm finally free now. The Emperor can kill me if he wants to. I'll remember this favor." King Ping patted him on the shoulder. Chu burst out laughing. "I hope I'm still alive for Your Royal Highness to return this favor. I'll take my leave first. There's no hurry." King Ping waved his hand. "Sit with me and bring me some wine." A protector from afar strode over with 2 water bags. King Ping gestured for Chu to have one. Chu took it and pulled out the cork. A mellow fragrance greeted him. "Come, have a good drink with me." King Ping pulled out the cork and gulped down the water, as if he was going to get drunk. Chu did not say anything and drank a few mouthfuls in one go. The mellow fragrance was extremely strong when it entered his mouth. It was so spicy that it was not his throat, but his stomach. He felt an indescribable pleasure. King Ping's dark expression did not change, but his eyes became brighter. Chu drank without saying a word. "Chu, don't worry. No one else will know about what happened today. No one will mention anything about the Zheng dynasty's mysterious pavilion." King Ping looked at him. "This matter is over. I won't ask my father about it, so that he won't be put in a difficult position." Chu said, "Your Royal Highness, you should ask what you need to so that the Emperor won't be suspicious." Sigh. King Ping shook his head and sighed. "It's rare to have someone to talk to. You have the guts to disregard power and authority. You even dare to go against my father. Well done." Chu smiled. "If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. It would be a sullen life. Instead of that, I might as well be happy. If I die, I die. It's no big deal." "Good." King Ping praised him and gulped down the wine again. "I'm in a dilemma now." King Ping shook his head and sighed. "There's no way forward or retreat. Actually, Your Royal Highness, you should take a step back." Chu said, "This is the best opportunity. Let people think that you're too sad and no longer interested in making contributions. The Emperor will understand your pain. The border doesn't need you that much now, Your Royal Highness. I'm afraid that once I step back, I won't have a chance to rise again." King Ping sighed. When he first heard about the real culprit, his emotions were stirred up. He was grateful that Chu had risked his life to tell him the truth. He admired Chu's wisdom and courage. Coupled with the stimulation of the wine, he opened his mouth and told Chu these secrets that he had only thought about in his mind. "As long as the Li dynasty and the Zheng dynasty are not destroyed, why would Your Royal Highness worry about not having a place to use your skills?" Chu said, "Is there another person in the Ji dynasty who is as good at fighting as Your Royal Highness?" "Not necessarily. Even if there is, there won't be a chance to grow." That makes sense." Chapter 3774. Chu said, "You're from the Holy Church of Light, right?" As soon as he said that, he threw out a knife. An elder used the divine light fist to slow down the flying knife and blocked it with his sword. Then, he and another elder rushed forward with their swords. Chu retreated and threw out the flying knife. Bang! A golden light suddenly exploded in the sky. A golden long sword condensed in the sky like a colorful cloud flashing in the night sky. It could be seen from a dozen miles away, even in Fairy's capital. The 8 great protectors saw that their opponent was stronger than them and did not try to be brave. They immediately used the signal to ask for help. Their reputation was not important, but King Ping's safety was more important. Secret skill, an elder said. Chuli saw that the situation was not good and dropped his heavenly demonic orb. Suddenly, his body surged with endless power. Inner energy from all directions surged into his dantian and turned into cloud, slashing power, inner energy. His figure disappeared in a flash and reappeared behind an old man. The elder's body expanded and shrank before returning to normal. However, his body exuded a mountainous and ocean-like aura. Facing Chu Li's palm from behind, he punched backward with the divine light fist and collided with Chu Li's right palm. Pop! It was like a stone falling into a deep well, making a strange sound. Their fists and palms collided as if they were glued together, competing with each other's inner energy. Cloud slashing power was extremely pure and had the ability to devour. It had always been invincible, but under the Elder's tyrannical and pure inner energy, it was forced to retreat. The Elder's inner energy was majestic and pure like water. It was 2 levels higher than Chu Li's inner energy, making it hard for Chu Li to breathe. Chu Li's face darkened. As expected, he was a hidden master. He turned to look at King Ping, who was fighting with another elder. The divine light fist forced King Ping to retreat more than 100 feet away. Chu Li shouted, "Your Royal Highness, be careful behind you. There are 2 more people behind you." King Ping was shocked, but did not turn his head. He wanted to say something, but could not as he was forced to retreat by the Elder's divine light fist. 2 black shadows came out of the woods like ghosts, and each hit King Ping's back. King Ping flew up with a bang and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Even with the treasured armor, he was still seriously injured. The palm energy seemed to be able to hit his body through the treasured armor. It was very strange. "Your Highness!" The 8 guards were shocked and angry. Their bodies abruptly swelled up, and a baleful aura emanated from them. Their bodies seemed to emit cold air, and their eyes were bloodshot. They completely ignored the black-robed old man's attack, trading injury for injury. Both sides were injured. The black-robed old men also fought with their lives on the line. They activated their secret arts and were ready to sacrifice themselves. They didn't show any weakness in the face of the 8 guards' counterattack. Pung, 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 pung. The sound of fists and palms hitting the body was like a heavy hammer beating a drum. The muffled sound shook people's hearts. Chu Li abruptly withdrew his heavenly demonic orb. Immediately, a surge of inner energy surged into his body, threatening to burst his meridians. The heavenly demonic orb suddenly curled up and absorbed all of his inner energy. Chu Li let the heavenly demonic orb absorb his inner energy while he used his inner energy to heal himself. He fixed his gaze on King Ping. After King Ping was sent flying, the 3 elders were relentless. They caught up to him in the air and struck him with their palms. Chu Li's face darkened. Although King Ping was protected by the treasured armor, he couldn't block the strange palm energy of the 2 black-robed old men. Their palm energy was like hitting a bull across a mountain. It bypassed the treasured armor and hit his internal organs. King Ping was seriously injured and could no longer maintain his body. He felt like he was going to fall to the ground. Bang! Chu Li suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of King Ping. He carried him on his back and ran. "Where do you think you're going?" The 3 elders used time steps and surrounded Chu Li and King Ping. Chu Li snorted coldly. He swung his hand and a cold light flashed. His body followed the cold light and shot out. Ding! A sword light blocked the flying blade. The other 2 elders' divine light fist collided with Chu Li. Chu Li had no choice but to take it head-on. He wanted to fight with the elders until both sides were injured. However, the 3 elders used the secret skill of great light. Their cultivation level was amazing, and their speed was even faster. They were like ghosts. Their figures could not be seen clearly, and they were powerful. After Chu Li consumed many wind speed pills and giant spirit pills, his speed and strength increased greatly. He was not inferior to the black-robed old men who used the secret skill. The only thing he lacked was inner energy. Fortunately, he had the heavenly demonic orb. Once the overbearing inner energy entered his body, it was swallowed by the heavenly demonic orb before it could cause any damage. In this way, Chu Li was barely able to block it. However, he could only block one of them. He could not block the three of them together. Swoosh! A sword pierced his arm. The tip of the sword slid through the floating silkworm treasured clothing. It did not pierce through, but the overbearing force of the sword caused him to stagger and stop his forward momentum. Your Royal Highness. The 8 great protectors were still rushing over, but they were trapped. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Your Royal Highness, you should practice your light body technique and be ready to escape at any time. Lying on his back, King Ping coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He smiled bitterly. If I can survive this, I must practice my light body technique when I get back. Chu Li faced a divine light fist head-on. He ignored the fist force that entered his body and shot out again. He wanted to escape from the 3 men's encirclement. Swoosh! 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 The 3 old men were excited to use the secret skill of great light, but their minds were still unusually calm. They saw Chu Li's weakness and drew their swords to stop him. Chu Li suddenly dodged and escaped from the encirclement. The 3 old men disappeared in a flash and reappeared beside him. Their swordsmanship formed a dense net that enveloped him. Chu Li drew his sword and swung it. Ding, 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 ding. Chu Li's long sword was like lightning, but could not block the 3 men's swords. He was hit from time to time, but it was always blocked by the floating silkworm treasured clothing. He could block 2 of the old men's swords, but not 3. If it was not for the floating silkworm treasured clothing, he would have been pierced into a beehive. Noticing that he was wearing treasured clothing, the 3 old men suddenly changed their swordsmanship and stabbed at his thigh. Even though Chu Li's sword was as fast as lightning, he could not block the trio's mercury-like sword force. His thigh was hit twice. King Ping said in a low voice, "Let me down." Chu Li said, "You go first." As soon as he said that, he twisted his body, grabbed King Ping's waist, and sent him flying. King Ping was thrown far away like a shot put. He was moving at an incredible speed. Chu Li swung his arm, and 2 flying blades shot out. At the same time, he shot out a petrifying finger. He had not used the petrifying finger all this while. He was waiting for this moment when their attention was on King Ping to catch him off guard. After the finger force, a flying blade was shot at the old man whose body was frozen. He was overjoyed and wanted to kill one. As long as he killed one, the situation could be reversed. As the flying blade approached the old man's throat, a sword light appeared and blocked the flying blade with a ding. This delay allowed the old man who was hit by the petrifying finger to recover. He shouted, "Be careful of this young man's finger force. It's strange." 2 of them covered Chu Li with their swords while the other old man shot at King Ping. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and reappeared in front of King Ping. He caught him and continued to run. The 3 old men continued to surround them, and the situation became worse. The injury on his thigh affected his speed. "Hey!" The 3 old men suddenly put one hand on their companion's back, and the 3 of them joined as one. The old man in the lead swung his arm and shot out a flying blade. The electric light flashed in the air. Chu Li noticed that something was wrong in advance, but it was too late to avoid it. Chapter 3775. P.S. Update complete. I'm really sorry. These 3 chapters were too difficult to write. King Ping called out, "Chu Li." Chu Li looked down at his chest and looked up at the 3 elders. This attack seemed to have exhausted their energy. After one slash, they immediately became dispirited. "Go!" Chu Li shouted and sealed all the acupuncture points on his body. This penetrating wound was like an opening in a dam. His inner energy poured out like a flood. In the blink of an eye, his mighty energy disappeared without a trace. His whole body was sore and weak. He wanted to use his light body technique, but his body staggered and fell to the ground with King Ping. Both of them fell to the ground and could not move. It was as if they had lost their bones and could not exert any strength. King Ping was seriously injured and weak. One more hit and he would die. Chuli could not exert any strength either. He could only lie down and pant. The life and death scripture brought over a vast amount of spiritual energy, but it could not bring them strength. They could only watch helplessly as the three elders approached them slowly, looking down at them from above. King Ping chuckled and shook his head. He did not expect to die here instead of on the battlefield. Chuli turned and said, "Your Royal Highness, we're going to the underworld together today. Congratulations, Your Royal Highness. You're going to reunite with the princess." King Ping said, "I'm too ashamed to see the princess. I couldn't avenge her. Compared to avenging her, the princess might prefer you to accompany her." Chuli smiled. Both of them looked calm, as if they did not see the three elders. The 8 great protectors in the distance had gone crazy. However, the crazier they were, the more chaotic their body movement and martial arts were. Soon, they were hit by the black-robed elders. Even with their secret skills, killing intent, and courage, they could not transcend their bodies. No matter how strong their willpower was, they could not resist their bodies and fell unwillingly. After the black-robed elders knocked down the protectors, they went to help their companions. In a 2-on-1 situation, the protectors were even more powerless. Soon, the 8 great protectors fell. When they fell, Chu Li and King Ping were still talking. King Ping showed a trace of regret and pain. He sighed and said, "I'm sorry to the princess. Ever since we got married, I've spent less than a month with the princess. She's been lonely all these years. She's always wanted a child by her side, but I've been busy with military affairs and had no time to spare, so the princess couldn't fulfill her wish." Chu Li said, "It's useless to think about these things now. When I get to the underworld, I'll meet the princess again and accompany her. It's a pity that I haven't gotten married yet. It's lonely being alone. Do you have a woman you like?" King Ping lay on the ground and looked at him. Chu Li turned over and pressed on his chest. His injuries had already healed a little. He sighed. "Yes, it's within reach, yet it's so far away." He was confident in the life and death scripture, but when the time came, the life and death scripture might not be effective. If the emperor were to make a move and end his life with a single palm strike, he would definitely be too lazy to cut off his head. He was confident that he could resurrect with a life and death scripture, but he had no confidence against these fellows because they would definitely cut off his head. If his head was cut off, he might not be able to come back to life. Chu Li was indeed a little regretful. He had always wanted to not force Shao Qi and take things one step at a time. After all, life was long, and he could live for more than 300 years. No matter how good a relationship was, it would not be fresh after 300 years. Therefore, he enjoyed the feeling of pursuing. Shao Qi's heart was tightly shut, and other men could not enter. He could take things slowly like stewing soup. When the time was right, his feelings would naturally deepen, and he would be able to have her completely. Now, it seemed that he had been too slow. Even if he had not mastered the manifestation of nature restoration, he could still see that Shao Qi had loosened up. He should have taken this opportunity to hold her in his arms. If he had not been slow, he would have had Shao Qi completely by now. "Are you regretting?" King Ping said. "I'm the one who caused you to fall into such a desperate situation." Chu Li smiled. "I'm regretting. Some things could have been done a long time ago. Your Highness, you have no regrets, but I can't. Unfortunately, fate is fickle, and we still have to leave this world together." As they spoke, the other 8 elders surrounded them and looked at the 2 people on the ground as if they were watching a show. Chu Li and King Ping turned a blind eye to them and continued talking. "Stop talking nonsense. I'll send you off." One of the elders in black said, "Don't reincarnate into the Ji dynasty in your next life. It's a tragedy to be born in a weak country." As soon as he finished speaking, he slapped Chu Li with his palm. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood. An extremely overbearing force poured into him, and a wave of anger attacked his heart, but it was swallowed by the heavenly, demonic orb. Chuli spat out this mouthful of blood in coordination with his palm energy. His face was instantly covered with a layer of green, and he was about to die. He still had one last trick, which was God's limbs. He had not given up hope of escaping. He would pretend to be dead first, and if they still wanted to cut his head off, he would activate God's limbs. If they did not want to die, he would pretend to be dead to get away with it. The elder in black had his face covered, and his gaze was calm, as usual. He slapped King Ping again. "How dare you?" A shout was suddenly heard, like an explosion in front of him. Chuli felt his mind go blank, as if he was struck by lightning. There was only a rumbling sound in his ears, and he could not hear anything else. His vision trembled and became blurry, but the omniscient mirror was still operating. This shout was too powerful for his weakened state, and he almost fainted. He relied on his strong spirit to support himself and retained a trace of consciousness. The omniscient mirror saw a figure suddenly appear with a dazzling white light. This figure was shrouded in the dazzling white light, and he could not see clearly. Through the omniscient mirror, he could only see a blurry silhouette. He was thin and small, and his movements were unimaginably fast. It was as if the world had stopped in front of his movements. He slapped one of the elders in black on the chest, and then he did not let any of them go. 13 slaps seemed to be completed slowly, and none of the 13 men in black were able to avoid it. All he saw was a surprised look on their faces, and then they were hit by his palm. After the slap, the 13 men in black did not react. The thin man shrouded in white light picked up King Ping, glanced at Chu Li, and then turned into a white light that shot into the sky and instantly disappeared. Bang, 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 bang. The 13 men in black suddenly exploded into pieces, as if they were dismembered. Their arms, legs, and heads were all shot far away, and not a single drop of blood was spilled. It was as if there was no blood left in their bodies. Chuli lay on the ground motionless, and the 8 great protectors were moaning in the distance. Chuli frowned, but he was still trying to reconstruct the figure just now. The white light around him was like a blazing sun falling in front of him, and even the omniscient mirror did not dare to look directly at him. His cultivation level was beyond imagination, and 13 hidden masters from the Holy Church of Light were killed by his palm. If they were like this, he would not be any different. If this palm had landed on him, even if he had the heavenly demonic orb, he would still be dismembered. He could not help but shudder at the thought of this. Could the life and death scripture really protect him when he was hit by such a palm force? Could he really revive? He was really not confident. He also vaguely guessed the identity of this person. It was the emperor that he had not seen. An enlightened master's attack was so powerful, and it was really terrifying. He struggled to get up and gave the 8 great protector spirit pills. Then he used his light body technique and flew away. When he entered the deep forest, he used God's limbs to return to his courtyard and started to heal his injuries after consuming the pills. Chapter 3776. He cleared his mind of distracting thoughts and replayed the earlier scene in his mind. Although Chu Li was struggling with King Ping, the omniscient mirror was able to observe the entire situation in his mind. At this time, he replayed the scene. Not only did he see the battle between King Ping and the 4 hidden masters, but he also saw the 8 great protectors and their respective opponents. The 8 great protectors were top-notch masters in the military with high cultivation levels, but they could not be compared to the hidden masters from the Holy Church of Light. After all, 100 years of cultivation was not comparable to 40 or 50 years of cultivation. After 100 years, there would be a qualitative change in one's power, and it would become more powerful. He had all kinds of divine skills that could stop a 100-year-old master. If he did not want to show his god's limbs in front of others, he would have escaped with King Ping. There were many things in the world that could restrain divine powers. If he was plotted against, he could not use it as a trump card. It was not safe to play dead with the life and death scripture, so he should not use God's limbs unless necessary. The hidden masters were not only powerful in their cultivation levels, but also in their swordsmanship. It was exquisite and tight with few flaws. The fact that they could block his light blade with their swordsmanship showed how powerful they were. What caught his attention the most was still that figure. Was this the power of an enlightened master? The light was as bright as the sun, so bright that people could not look at it directly. His omniscient mirror could not even see the face clearly. He could only see a figure. The feeling of falling from the sky suffocated him. He felt like an ant standing under a towering mountain, unable to resist, and could only let him kill him. An enlightened master's aura was so strong that it was lethal. He did not even need to move. As long as he stood in front of him, the continuous pressure was enough to make people collapse and scare them to death. Chu Li's spiritual energy was strong, so he could stay conscious. Even those hidden masters could not withstand this pressure. This pressure slowed down the opponent's reaction, movement, and inner energy. They could only watch helplessly as they were hit, unable to dodge. It was extremely terrifying. Chu Li speculated that he would not be a match for them if he were in their shoes. His god's limbs would be useless as well. Even if he was slightly stronger than the 12 hidden masters, the outcome would still be the same. He would have to watch helplessly as he was struck and torn apart. He did not know if the life and death scripture could resurrect him. It was probably impossible. He was dead. It seemed that enlightened masters were not to be provoked. He sighed and shook his head. The next morning, Chu Li was recuperating on his bed. Currently, his body was both the divine light body and the heavenly demon body. His earth matrix and reincarnation scripture had yet to be mastered, so he had yet to cultivate the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture. However, it was already extremely powerful. In just one night, the wound on his chest had already grown a thin membrane and tender flesh had grown. Chu Li received the imperial edict. Suddenly, a bell-like voice echoed throughout the imperial residence of King, and Chu Li furrowed his brows. They had finally arrived. He reckoned that the emperor would not silence him because he had already met King Ping, and it was too late to do so. However, he knew that what he had done was certain, and he would inevitably be punished in the future. He didn't expect an imperial edict to be issued. Chu Li, receive your orders. A loud and majestic voice rang out again. Chu Li raised his voice and said, Chu Li, receive the edict. He floated out of the courtyard and arrived outside the gate. King An's imperial residence's vermilion lacquer gate was already wide open, and the huge bronze nails were shining brightly. Two middle-aged men in black clothes stood at the bottom of the steps at the gate. They were holding an imperial edict written on a yellow silk scroll. Their eyes were calm, and their expressions were solemn. They were quietly looking at the gate. Chu Li strode out of the gate and arrived at the bottom of the steps. He gave a fist salute and said, Chu Li, receive your orders. As soon as he finished speaking, a flurry of footsteps came from behind him. Xiao Shi was dressed in a bluish-white gown with golden chrysanthemums embroidered on the cuffs. It was elegant yet luxurious. A white veil covered her beautiful face, revealing only a pair of eyes that were as deep as the abyss. When she glanced at them, it was enough to captivate one's soul. She was escorted by Yang Su, Meng Lan, and the other maids. She walked out gracefully like a willow in the wind. Lu Xing and the other protectors guarded her closely. They looked around vigilantly and were ready to pounce at any time. After Consort Ping was assassinated, the imperial residences paid more attention to the protectors. Lu Xing and the others were also very careful. What happened? She came to Chu Li's side. Chu Li shook his head. A middle-aged imperial house protector in black clothes stepped forward and opened the imperial edict. Chief of King An's imperial residence, Centurion of Secret Guardians Hall, Rank 1 scribe Chu Li, has deceived the emperor and betrayed the emperor's grace. He is hereby ordered to leave the capital in 5 days and arrive at the imperial mausoleum within 10 days. He will be appointed as an imperial mausoleum guard. He used his inner energy to speak. His voice reverberated in the sky like a bronze bell. Not only did it resound in King Anne's imperial residence, but it could also be heard from a few miles away. Half of Fairy's capital could hear it clearly. Chu smiled bitterly and extended his hand. "Yes, your majesty." Xiao Shi's eyes turned cold. She glanced at the two imperial house protectors. The two of them gave a fist salute and smiled bitterly. "Consort, we're just following orders. This is an order from the emperor. He wants us to announce it to the entire city." "Humph, the emperor is really interesting." Xiao Shi scoffed. "He's afraid that the world won't know about a demotion order." The two fists saluted and left in a hurry without asking for any reward. Chu studied the imperial edict. He shook his head and laughed. The emperor was being merciful by demoting him to guard the imperial mausoleum. He ended up in the same situation as Su Huanda. Now, the two of them could be companions. Su Huanda was no longer in danger. He would be able to return to the secret guardian's hall sooner or later. This was a good outcome. With the imperial edict, the emperor would not look for him to settle the score. However, the emperor did not want to use him anymore. He should just stay put and get out of Fairy's capital. Xiao Shi turned to look at him. "Truly, what's going on? Why did this come out of nowhere? How did you offend the emperor?" Truly said, "Let's talk inside." Xiao Shi glanced at the people around her who had different expressions. She waved her hand and returned to Tianshu courtyard with Chu Li. Xiao Qi was not in Tianshu courtyard. She was here most of the time at night. During the day, she would not come over for half a day. Instead, she would cultivate in the residence next to the imperial residence. Xiao Shi sent everyone away to talk to Chu Li. "Is it because of what you told King Ping?" Xiao Shi asked with a frown. She stared at him with her deep and bright eyes. "It shouldn't be. King Ping wouldn't have told him. Moreover, he couldn't have told him so soon." She did not know that Chu Li was injured last night. Chu Li went straight to his courtyard. After a night, no one could tell that he was injured. Chu Li told her about what happened last night. Xiao Shi said angrily, "The emperor is so cruel. You saved King Ping. No matter what, you should have made up for your mistake and let bygones be bygones. Yet, he sent you to guard the imperial mausoleum. How infuriating." Chu Li said, "I have God's limbs. It doesn't matter if I go to the imperial mausoleum or not." "That's true." Xiao Shi nodded. Chu Li had God's limbs. No matter where he went, he could come back at night. It was not much different from staying in Fairy's capital. But he purposely made the announcement so loud. "It's infuriating." Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li sighed. "This is the best outcome. If I didn't save King Ping, I'm guessing the emperor would have sent someone to kill me by now." "That's true. But you're in peace now. You don't have to worry about the secret guardian's hall anymore." Xiao Shi scoffed. "From what I see, we don't have to worry about the Holy Church of Light Spies. It's better to just focus on cultivating." Chu Li smiled. "It's a pity to give up just like that. You're destined to be a laborer." Xiao Shi scoffed. "All right, guard the imperial mausoleum then. Go and rest. Who knows, you might be transferred back soon. It won't be possible for a while." Chu Li shook his head. "They think I'm dishonest and won't use me anymore. The residence needs to be careful in case someone hits me when I'm down. I'll let my younger sister stay here," Xiao Shi said. Chu Li nodded. As he lost his power, the forces that wanted to assassinate Xiao Shi would naturally take advantage of this opportunity. "What do you plan to leave?" "There's no rush. The 5th day. I've been in Fairy's capital for so long, but I haven't gone out to play. Accompany me and my younger sister for a few days," Xiao Shi said. In the future, Chu Li could come back anytime, but he could not show his face. He could only secretly appear in the imperial residence. It would be difficult for him to experience the prosperity of Fairy's capital. Xiao Shi planned to bring him to eat some good food and drink. Chapter 3777. Without waiting for Co. Shi to send someone over to greet her, Co. Chi came over on her own. She was dressed in a white robe, and her entire body was spotless, as if she was an otherworldly fairy. She had already heard the announcement of the imperial edict. She stared coldly at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and said, "My lady, we have to part ways. This time, it will be as you wish." Xiao Qi asked, "Are you really going to the imperial mausoleum?" The imperial decree has been issued. I can't defy it, Chu Li said. Co Shi told her everything that Chu Li had done last night. Co Chi nodded. This is the emperor sparing your life. You can be spared from the death penalty, but you can't be spared from punishment. Based on his personality, he won't let you return to the fairies' capital. Chu Li nodded. Co Shi smiled and said, It's all right. He has the limb of God and can come back any time. Xiao Qi had a strange expression on her face. What's wrong? Isn't that right? Co Shi noticed her strange expression and quickly asked, As long as you don't show your face in public, then you can be disappointed, second sister. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Qi's cold face as she said, You can't use divine powers in the Imperial Mausoleum. Xiao Shi was surprised. I can't use my divine powers? Xiao Qi said, Just think about it. If the Imperial Mausoleum can be guarded with divine powers, how can it be guarded? Co Shi's beautiful face darkened as she looked at Chu Li. Chu Li shook his head and asked, Can I really not use my divine powers? That's what I heard. You'll know once you go and take a look, Xiao Qi said. Xiao Shi frowned and thought for a while before nodding slowly. At first, when Chu Li mentioned it, he was immediately overjoyed after being worried, so he did not think too much about it. Now that he was reminded by Xiao Qi, he thought about it carefully and felt that it made sense. If divine powers could really be used, who could defend against it? The Imperial Mausoleum was as luxurious as the Forbidden Palace. The Underground Palace and the Forbidden Palace were exactly the same. It was just that the people sitting in the palace were the remains of the previous emperors, not living people. The guards in this underground palace were similar to those in the imperial house, perhaps even more so. It was said that the emperor's slough contained a great mystery of the enlightened master, and outsiders were not allowed to peek into it. Because the emperor was an enlightened master, the defense of the Forbidden Palace was far better than that of the guards. Therefore, in terms of security, the Imperial Mausoleum was even better than the Forbidden Palace. Xiao Shi scoffed. Isn't that the end? Once he goes to the Imperial Mausoleum, Chu Li won't be able to return. Xiao Qi nodded. Xiao Shi frowned as she looked at Chu Li. Chu Li said, I'll think of something. Xiao Qi said faintly, If it's that easy, guarding the Imperial Mausoleum wouldn't be such a tough job. Chu Li smiled confidently. All right, you'll be able to think of a way. Don't stay there all day. There's still something waiting for you here. Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li had become her pillar of support. Although there was nothing much to do in King Anne's imperial residence, Chu Li only sat down and chatted for a while when he returned. Everything was on the right track. The protectors were strong enough, and with Xiao Qi around, there was no need to worry about their safety. However, when Chu Li was not around, she felt a sense of unease. She felt a little weak and unsettled. The four of them left the imperial residence of King and without any protectors. It was just Chu Li, Xiao Qi, Xiao Shi, and Suru. Half of the three women's faces were covered by white veils, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. Chu Li was dressed in a green tunic with a long sword hanging at his waist. He exuded a heroic aura with a hint of magnanimity. The four of them strolled around for the entire morning and then went to a restaurant for lunch. This Ling Yun Tower was considered the top restaurant in Fairy's capital. It had a total of 3 floors and was about 30 meters tall. Standing on the top floor and looking down at Fairy's capital, it was as prosperous as Brocade. It was truly a heroic atmosphere. The chef of the restaurant was also superb. It was said that the chef's ancestor used to be in the imperial kitchen of the imperial house. The four of them arrived very early. There were only 5 or 6 tables on the 3rd floor that were occupied. They found a table by the window and ordered a few of the signature dishes of the imperial family. The dishes were served quickly. They looked, smelled, and tasted great. As expected of the imperial cuisine, Chu Li and the 3 women ate with relish. The 3 women only ate and did not drink. They chewed slowly and elegantly. On the other hand, Chu Li drank a pot of fine wine by himself. He was leisurely, and Suru poured wine for him. They did not talk much. They only listened to the chatter around them. Listening to the news in Fairy's capital was also a kind of pleasure. Everyone, have you heard? A slightly plump old man stroked his beard and shook his head. He sighed and said, The head chief of King An's imperial residence, Chu Li, has fallen. I heard the imperial edict with my own ears. Another thin old man shook his head and said, "This head chief Chu is too insolent. This day will come sooner or later." That's not entirely true. This head chief Chu is just and fair. He is not afraid of power. Another black-faced old man said in a low voice, "It's rare for such a person to be born. It's a pity that good people don't live long." He's not dead yet. Although he's not dead, he's almost there. He's going to guard the imperial mausoleum. He's done for the rest of his life. He can only live in obscurity in the imperial mausoleum. He won't appear in front of people anymore. His life is completely over. He won't appear in Fairy's capital either. Sigh, it's such a pity that such a person would end up like this. Actually, he's still young and has a bright future. He might even be able to leave the imperial mausoleum and return to Fairy's capital in the future. Elder Zhang, have you heard of anyone who came out of the imperial mausoleum? Everything in the imperial mausoleum is confidential. Once you go in, you can forget about coming back. You'll spend the rest of your life in the imperial mausoleum. Doesn't that mean he's finished? He can only live in the imperial mausoleum for the rest of his life. He'll be isolated from the martial arts world. How pitiful. The higher one climbs, the harder one falls. The slightly plump old man shook his head and sighed. He used to be arrogant. This day will come. The emperor is still the one in charge of Fairy's capital. He won't have a good ending for offending the prince. Deceiving the emperor. He's too bold. That's the emperor we're talking about. As the emperor and an enlightened master, he was respected by everyone in this martial arts world. They were shocked that Chu Li dared to deceive the emperor. He dared to go against the prince and the crown prince. They didn't expect him to deceive the emperor. He was too bold. The imperial residence of King An is going to decline without the head chief. King An is actually being pressured by this head chief. Now that he's free, the imperial residence of King An might even prosper. Haha, a rank 1 head chief. Which royal highness can stand him? Chu Li took a sip of wine and pondered. Sure raised her eyebrows and smiled. Looks like you're unpopular. Humph. Chi snorted. She felt that their words were harsh. Suru shook her head. Chu Li said, "Since ancient times, it's nothing out of the ordinary. I guess there will be a lot of people waiting for you." Sure said, "Especially Prince Cheng. He must be ecstatic." "That must be the case." Chu Li smiled. "And Lung Tao. I'm afraid he's going to get drunk and sing to his heart's content." As they spoke, footsteps were heard. A few protectors went upstairs and looked around. Their gazes landed on Chi. Seeing that she was a woman, their gazes softened. They turned around and shouted, "Imperial Crown Prince, no problem." Xiao San led the way. He came up first and bowed. "Imperial Crown Prince, please." Lung Tao waved his fan and swaggered up to the 3rd floor. He glanced at the crowd lazily. His gaze suddenly froze when he saw Chu Li. His white and plump face suddenly broke into a smile. "Ha! Who is this?" Chu Li held his wine glass and looked at him. Lung Tao laughed out loud. "Isn't this the famous head chief Chu?" Chu Li said lightly. "Imperial Crown Prince Tao, it seems like you've forgotten your lesson." "Chu Li, things are different now." Lung Tao closed his fan and smacked his palm. He smiled. "What can you do to me? Even if I'm going to the Imperial Mausoleum, I'm still a rank 1. Beating you up is not a problem." Chu Li held his wine glass and said lazily. Chapter 3778. Chu Li rolled his eyes and squinted at Xiao San. "Loyal, that's rare." Xiao San scoffed. "The Imperial Crown Prince has such a high status. Even if you, head chief Chu, have a high position, you can't talk to him like that." Chu Li asked, "What rank is he?" "Rank isn't everything." Xiao San scoffed. Chu Li snickered and turned to look at Lung Tao. "Imperial Crown Prince Tao, it seems like this protector of yours doesn't care about rank at all. His courage is commendable. I'm impressed." Lung Tao coughed and swung his fan. "The people of the martial arts world don't care about rank. What they care about is bloodline. I'm of the royal bloodline." It's a shame that you didn't inherit the emperor's excellence. Chu shook his head. Good for nothing, what a pity. Chu, you're already in the state. What are you so proud of? Lung Tao could no longer keep up the act. He might as well go and guard the imperial mausoleum. There was nothing to worry about, and they would never meet again. Chu said, guarding the imperial mausoleum is a nice job. Haha, nice job. Lung Tao laughed in disdain. You sure know how to comfort yourself. Nice job. Chu smiled. I can focus on cultivating my martial arts. It's no different from isolated cultivation. It is isolated cultivation, but it's death. Lung Tao pouted. Once you enter the imperial mausoleum, don't even think about coming out. What's the use of cultivating martial arts? There's no place to use it. Isn't that sad? I believe the emperor will summon me back. Chu said. What a joke. You deceive the emperor. With such a crime, even the new emperor won't dare to use you. Lung Tao glanced at him and shook his head. Grandfather hates you. He'll never let you out. Who can see the future clearly? Stubborn. Lung Tao said in disdain. Your proud days are over. The imperial mausoleum is boring. Let's see if you can take it. Chu smiled. Co Shi's face darkened, and Co Chi's face darkened. Lung Tao closed fist saluted. Third, and I'll take my leave. Co Shi said coldly. Lung Tao, is what you said true? Lung Tao smiled and said, in any case, Head Chief Chu is finished. Third, and he should also be prepared. Make proper arrangements and plan ahead. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. He could not be bothered to argue with Chu. Instead, Chu was an insignificant person. This fellow. Xiao Shi shook her head and looked at Chu. Chu looked at the worried faces of the three women and smiled. Ignore him. There will be a way. I hope so, Co Shi sighed. She had always been confident in Chu, but the news she had heard was getting worse and worse. It was as if entering the imperial mausoleum was like entering the cold palace, and there was no way for him to get out. This made her feel a little diffident and worried. Xiao muttered, looks like it's easier to get in than to get out. You have to be careful. Chu nodded. The four of them returned to King An's imperial residence dispiritedly. Just as they reached the main entrance, the external chief Zhu ran over and said in a low voice, Princess, Head Chief, King Jing is waiting in the residence. He has been here for an hour. Chu nodded. I'll be right there. Co Shi and Xiao Qi entered the residence and returned to Tianshu courtyard while Chu went to the main hall. The main hall was brightly lit. King Jing was dressed in a purple robe and was sitting in an armchair reading a book. He looked focused and solemn, and his aura was faintly discernible. The sound of footsteps coming from outside interrupted him. He put down the book and saw Chu coming in with a fist salute, so he stood up and did a fist salute. Thank you for waiting, Your Royal Highness. Please forgive me. Chu did a fist salute and sat opposite King Jing. A pretty maid served a cup of tea and retreated gracefully. Chu took a sip of tea and put down the teacup. Your Royal Highness, why did you come to the imperial residence in person? It was his first time meeting King Jing in King An's imperial residence. King Jing had never been to King An's imperial residence before. King Jing sighed. I heard the imperial edict. Chief Chu, are you really going to guard the imperial mausoleum? The emperor has given me the imperial edict. I can't defy it. Chu nodded. King Jing frowned and looked at him. What happened that made father so angry? Chu said, I found a mastermind behind Consort Ping's assassination and told King Ping about it. Who's the mastermind? King Jing asked. Don't tell me it's me. Many people were saying that he had sent someone to assassinate the consort to affect King Ping's mood so that he would not be able to lead the army to war. It's not Your Royal Highness. Chu shook his head. It's Zheng Dynasty's mysterious pavilion. Zheng Dynasty? King Jing was in disbelief. How can it be them? Isn't it the Holy Church of Light? He shook his head. Mysterious pavilion hit a pawn in the Holy Church of Light and used it at the critical moment. Everyone thought it was the Holy Church of Light. King Jing clenched his teeth and sneered. Mysterious pavilion is ruthless. This was a vicious move. It was hard for anyone to link it to them. Everyone guessed that the murderer was either the Holy Church of Light from the Li dynasty or him. Chu sighed. King Jing said, I heard that fourth brother wants to give up his military power. He's disheartened after the consort's assassination and refuses to return to the border. He wants to live in seclusion and ignore the world. I heard that he's going to guard the imperial mausoleum too. Chu looked at him in shock. He did not expect King Ping to be so decisive and give up his military power. What was worse was that he was going to guard the imperial mausoleum. Speaking of which, fourth brother is really pitiful. Sister-in-law is the most innocent. Mysterious pavilion deserves to die. King Jing's face darkened at the end of his speech. He gritted his teeth, and his voice was cold and murderous. When he thought about his consort being assassinated, he felt a chill run down his spine and his heart beat faster. He dared not imagine how painful it would be. Mysterious Pavilion's move was too vicious. It was intolerable. The emperor agreed to let King Ping guard the imperial mausoleum? How's that possible? King Jing shook his head and smiled bitterly. After listening to the emperor's imperial edict, I suddenly realized that fourth brother was probably fighting with father. He must have said that because his pleas for you were unsuccessful. Chu nodded slowly. If King Ping didn't plead for me, the emperor would have killed me. Back then, the emperor sent Commander Su to the imperial mausoleum to hide this news. He thought that I didn't know who the mastermind was. In the end, King Ping sent someone to question me. I couldn't bear to lie, so I told him the truth. King Jing sighed. Chief Chu, you're a sentimental person too. He could guess Chu Li's situation at the time. If he had gone against father's intentions and revealed the mastermind, he would have been killed. However, Chu Li had revealed it. He was lucky to be sent to guard the imperial mausoleum. If fourth brother had not pleaded for him, Chu Li would have been dead according to father's temper. Chu Li said, I can't change this temper of mine. Moreover, as a cultivator, it'll be difficult for him to achieve perfection if he betrays his own heart. I thank you on behalf of fourth brother. King Jing fist saluted. Chu smiled. Your Royal Highness, you're relieved now, aren't you? King Jing smiled bitterly. I didn't expect fourth brother to be like this. However, I'm really worried without fourth brother at the border. Chu smiled without saying a word. King Jing's words had a deeper meaning. Clearly, he was not worried about the Li dynasty. Instead, he was worried that King Ping's subordinates would be dissatisfied. If that happened, it would be difficult to control the army. King Ping had a high prestige in the army. If he left suddenly without a word, how could his subordinates be at ease? They might think that the emperor had forcefully taken away King Ping's military power and would be dissatisfied. King Jing picked up his teacup and took a sip. He lowered his head and said nothing. Chu smiled. If King Ping comes to see me, I'll ask him to write a letter to his subordinates. That would be the best. King Jing stood up and fist saluted solemnly. Chapter 3779. King Jing sighed and said, Chief Chu, father has decided not to use you anymore. Chu nodded. Deceiving the emperor is a very serious crime. Even the next emperor wouldn't dare to use you. King Jing looked up at him and said in a low voice, Once you step into the imperial mausoleum, you're destined to be trapped there for the rest of your life. You won't be able to come out. No one has ever come out of the imperial mausoleum. Chu frowned. King Jing shook his head slowly. No, in that case, my fate has already been decided. Yes, forget it. I have to accept my fate. Since my fate is like this, and I can't go against the emperor, I can't just run away and be chased by the entire world. There's only one way to escape from the imperial mausoleum. King Jing said in a low voice, The only way. I'm all ears. Chu sat up straight. King Jing took a deep breath. Become an enlightened master. Chu frowned and remained silent. King Jing said, Rumor has it that the imperial mausoleum contains the secrets of the enlightened masters. If you can understand it, you can become an enlightened master. Others may not have much hope, but Chief Chu, your comprehension is amazing. I heard from your own that your aptitude is rare in the world. Maybe you have a glimmer of hope. Enlightened master. Chu Li smiled and nodded slowly. King Jing said, "There's always a way out." From the looks of it, Chief Chu, this is the only way out. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and nodded slowly. This king has said what he wanted to say. King Jing put down his teacup, stood up, and fist saluted. I'll take my leave now. Let me know when you're leaving the capital city. I'll send you off. All right. Chu Li nodded in agreement. King Jing turned around and walked out. Chu Li walked him to the main gate. Just as King Jing was about to leave, he heard a muffled rumble and the ground shook. More than 20 horses galloped over. 20 riders surrounded 2 elderly men who were dressed in luxurious clothing and had a graceful bearing. They arrived at the main entrance of King An's imperial residence. In front of the imperial residence of King An was a spacious piece of flat land. It was spacious enough for 22 horses to gallop. Greetings, 7th uncle, 8th uncle. King Jing gave a fist salute and bowed. Chu Li fist saluted. Your Royal Highnesses. The 20 cavalrymen parted to the sides. 2 graceful and luxurious-looking elders rode their horses in front of King Jing and leaped down from their horses nimbly. They were Prince Bao and Prince Kong. Prince Bao sized up King Jing and smiled. Sixth brother, you're here too. King Jing said, yes. Prince Bao smiled and said, aren't you afraid that the emperor will be angry if you come over? King Jing smiled. You don't have to be angry, father. Prince Bao nodded in satisfaction. Prince Kong said with a smile, now, everyone is afraid of avoiding little Chu. You've put in a lot of effort to come here. I have something to discuss with Chief Chu. King Jing glanced at Chu Li. I'm not just here to visit. Oh. Prince Bao stroked his beard and smiled. Young Chu is going to guard the Imperial Mausoleum soon. What else is there? He looked at Chu Li and shook his head. It's about 4th brother, King Jing said. Looks like 4th sister is really sad. Prince Bao shook his head. Who wouldn't be sad when something like this happened to them? They were originally a family, but now they're all alone. How could they not be sad? Fortunately, he's still young. He should quickly marry a consort and settle down. Prince Kong scoffed. I heard that he wants to guard the Imperial Mausoleum. He's willful and mischievous. He's been killing enemies at the front lines, but his nest has been raided. He's in pain and regret. I think 4th brother has aged a lot. Prince Bao sighed. Encountering such a huge change, it's going to be tough for him. King Jing nodded slowly. Chu Li smiled. Your Royal Highnesses, since you're here, come in and have some tea. We're just here to ask for a cup of tea. Prince Kong smiled. The two followed Chu Li into the residence. King Jing watched them enter. Then he stared at the main door of King An's imperial residence for a long time before he turned and left. This 6th brother doesn't visit for no reason. Something must have happened, right? Prince Bao sat on the armchair and took a sip of tea. He's only concerned about the imperial court. He's so busy that he doesn't have the time to visit. Chu Li smiled. King Jing is worried that the border is unstable. Why would he look for you if the border is unstable? Prince Kong asked. Chu Li said, I can talk to King Ping, so he asked me to help. Understood. The two princes were smart people. They suddenly understood King Jing's intention. They shook their heads and laughed. This was King Jing. How is it, young Chu? Your good days are over, aren't they? Prince Kong chuckled. Are you worried? Yes, Chu Li said helplessly. The emperor won't let me live. Young Chu, do you know that one can enter but not leave the imperial mausoleum? Prince Bao stroked his beard and sighed. His expression turned solemn. In terms of importance, the imperial mausoleum is much more important than the imperial house. Once you step into the imperial mausoleum, there's almost no chance for you to come out. Chu Li nodded. However, almost no one knows that the imperial mausoleum is separated into the inside and outside. Once you step into the imperial mausoleum, it's indeed impossible for you to come out. It's impossible for the emperor to summon you back, but if you're outside, you'll have a chance to come back. Prince Bao said. Chu Li nodded slowly. He was deep in thought. That was more like it. When he was escorting Su Huanda, he realized that Su Huanda was not too pessimistic. There was still a faint hope for him to return to the fairy's capital. However, after he received the imperial edict, he received news that no one could come back from the imperial mausoleum, including King Jing, who had just left. This is supposed to be confidential. Ordinary people can't come into contact with it, including King Jing and the others. Prince Bao's expression was solemn. He said, "Only the Emperor, us, and a few confidants know about it. However, we won't spread it." Chu Li asked, "Do you know about the Secret Guardians Hall?" "The Secret Guardians Hall might know about it." Prince Bao nodded. Chu Li asked, "Your Royal Highness wants to tell me?" "Of course." Prince Bao smiled. "We know what you did to Fourth Brother. How can we just stand by and watch?" "Thank you, Your Royal Highness." Chu Li fist saluted. Prince Bao said, "Although we know the method, we can't guarantee that you'll be able to use it." Chu Li said, "I'm all ears." "It's very difficult to enter the inner mausoleum. Without sufficient cultivation, you won't be able to enter the inner mausoleum. If your martial arts are completely crippled, you won't even be able to enter the outer mausoleum." Prince Bao smiled. Chu Li's eyes lit up. "My martial arts are completely crippled?" "Yes." Prince Bao smiled. "Once your martial arts are completely crippled, you won't be able to enter the outer mausoleum. You can only guard outside the imperial mausoleum. This is also considered guarding the mausoleum. It's not against the Emperor's edict. Although you still won't be able to leave the imperial mausoleum, there's still hope for you to come back." Prince Kong grinned. "After a while, when the Emperor's anger has cooled down, we'll put in a good word for you. Who knows, the Emperor might be happy and relent and transfer you back." Chu Li nodded slowly. Prince Bao said, "But for a master like you, having your martial arts crippled will be worse than death. I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. Moreover, once your martial arts are crippled, you'll become a useless cripple. The Emperor won't use you anymore, so the risk is very high." Prince Kong sighed. "Let's not talk about anything else. Once your martial arts are crippled, even if you return to the fairy's capital and the imperial residence, will you have a good life? I'm afraid you might as well stay in the imperial mausoleum." Chu Li smiled. Chapter 3780. Prince Kong scoffed and said, "This is more like a trap. Many arrogant and talented people think that they are better than their predecessors and can see through the secrets of the enlightened master. Thus, they enter the inner mausoleum and never come out again. So, young Chu, don't be silly and think that you can see through the secrets of the enlightened master." Chu Li remained silent. He was indeed conceited that his comprehension surpassed everyone else's. He felt that the inner mausoleum was a great temptation. If he could really break through and become an enlightened master in one fell swoop, no one in the world would be able to stop him. How satisfying would that be? He was still rational, so he quickly sobered up. If it was that easy to become a heavenly deity, there would have been heavenly deities long ago. Eighth brother is speaking the truth. Prince Bao said slowly, "Don't be bewitched by the enlightened master and think that you can see through the enlightened master. In my opinion, you should just cripple your martial arts. I'll just cultivate outside the imperial tombs. Once I'm back, I'll come back to cultivate in seclusion and recover my martial arts. I'll be a good man again. That's the safest choice." Prince Kong said solemnly. Chu Li thought for a moment, then raised his head and smiled. "Thank you, Your Royal Highnesses. I will cripple your martial arts. Decisive. Smart." Prince Kong gave him a thumbs up and said with a smile, "This is not an easy decision. On one hand, you have to resist the temptation, and on the other hand, you have to endure the pain. In short, don't change your mind. You must cripple your martial arts." "Yes," Chu Li replied. Prince Bao said, "But there's a risk in having your martial arts crippled. You have many enemies. If someone knows that you have crippled your martial arts, they might try to kill you along the way." Chu Li said, "I'm very lucky I can't be killed. You have to consider this." Prince Bao said, "I'll get a few protectors to escort you." Chu Li quickly shook his head. "Thank you, Your Royal Highness. There's really no need for that. I don't lack protectors." "All right then, you're from the High Duke's public house. You got a solid foundation. Let's find a chance to plead with the Emperor." Prince Bao smiled. The Emperor's temper comes and goes quickly. Even after becoming an enlightened master, his temper hasn't changed. The Emperor won't be angry that the two of you came here openly and told me this, right? Chuli smiled. Prince Bao scoffed. Are you afraid that he'll be angry? Prince Kong shook his head and said with a smile, At most, he will reprimand us. Nothing will happen. Chuli nodded. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard from outside. Chief Zhu quietly came to the outside of the main hall and said in a low voice, Head Chief, His Highness King Ping has arrived. Open the middle door. I'll personally welcome you. Chuli said. Yes. Chief Zhu hurriedly left. All right, we're done talking. I won't disturb you and fourth brother. Prince Bao stood up. Prince Kong also stood up and said with a smile, Little Chu, you are a busy man. Chuli could not help but laugh. Your Royal Highness, you're teasing me. I've been really busy these 2 days. The two of them strode out of the hall, and the guards outside hurriedly followed, escorting the three of them out. When they exited the main gate, they saw King Ping in the middle of the 8 protectors. King Ping's burly face was cold, as if he had seen through everything and was indifferent to everything. Upon seeing Prince Bao and Prince Kong, King Ping went forward and gave them a fist salute. 7th uncle, 8th uncle. Prince Bao and Prince Kong waved their hands and sighed to themselves. However, there was no expression on their faces. They leaped onto their horses and left immediately. King Ping watched them leave and entered the main hall with Chuli. Chuli asked, Your Royal Highness, are you still angry because of me? King Ping said in a low voice, I didn't expect my father to be so petty. Chuli shook his head. As an emperor, my dignity must not be tarnished. His Highness King Jing came over just now and asked you to write a letter to appease the generals of the border army. The two of them had gone through thick and thin together, so there was no need to be polite. If he was polite to King Ping, he would be dissatisfied and become distant. The more impolite he was, the closer they were. I'll write it when I get back, King Ping said. Chuli said, Your Royal Highness, you must be careful of assassinations. Once I enter Fairy's capital, I won't be afraid of assassinations. King Ping said coldly, My father can rush over at any time. I can't die even if I want to. Chuli nodded. If he had been worried before, after the appearance of the Emperor, he completely believed that the Emperor had the ability to appear by King Ping's side at any time and save his life. King Ping said, I'm bored now. I'll accompany you to the Imperial Mausoleum. Chuli shook his head. Your Royal Highness, think about the consort. King Ping fell silent and nodded slowly. If he wanted to take revenge, he had to wait and find an opportunity. If he left the court, he would not be able to move forward with nothing to rely on. Your Royal Highness, if you're free, you might as well participate in court affairs, Chuli said. King Ping sighed and nodded. He really did not want to participate in court affairs. He felt that was a mess of flies seeking personal gain and scheming against each other. It was not something a man should do. Take your time on the road. I'll see if you can change my father's mind. Your Royal Highness, you don't have to plead for me anymore. I've decided to cripple my martial arts to avoid entering the Imperial Mausoleum. After a while, when the Emperor's anger subsides, Prince Bao and Prince Kong will plead for me, Chuli said. King Ping frowned. Cripple your martial arts? Don't worry, Your Royal Highness. I can come out. Chuli smiled. King Ping nodded slowly. The two of them chatted for a while more before King Ping took his leave. Chuli returned to Tianshu courtyard and told Xiao Shi and Shao Qi about the matter. Both of them frowned. Is this idea reliable? Xiao Shi frowned. It won't be a problem, right? If you really cripple your martial arts and can't come back, you might be bullied over there. How can you bear that? Chuli smiled. When I first entered the High Duke's public house, I didn't know any martial arts and wasn't bullied. That's different. Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him. When you entered the High Duke's public house, you were surrounded by acquired masters. As they spoke, Chief Zhu's voice came from outside. Head Chief, Miss M.O. from the Verdant Cloud Brothel, sent an invitation. Chuli said, Come in. Chief Zhu lowered his head and walked in. He presented the invitation with both hands and then left. Chuli took a look. It was tonight. The two women glared at him coldly. Chapter 3781. The first White Robe Do Diju competition. In order to repay the support of the book fans, we are holding the White Robe Do Diju event. Do Diju prize money first place, 3,000 RMB second place, 2,000 RMB third place, 1,000 RMB fourth place, 800 RMB fifth place, 600 RMB sixth place, 400 RMB seventh to 10th place, 200 RMB. Those who did not get into the top 10, do not be discouraged. 10 lucky prizes will be randomly selected. Reward. Those who did not get the lucky prize, do not be discouraged. There will be a big bag of 1,000 renminbi waiting for you. Participation requirements. All White Robe subscriptions, group verification, registration, screenshot to Sai. If you know how to play Do Diju, you will form a group of 3. The first round will be an overall selection. The management will randomly assign 3 people to a group. The winner must take a screenshot and send it to the management. It must be a big picture. Everyone only has one chance. If you win, you will be eliminated. The first place will be decided. Event time. Mid-Autumn Festival will start at 8 p.m. You can start registration from the time the announcement is made. Registration will stop at 12:30 noon on the day of Mid-Autumn Festival. The prize money for this event will be exclusively sponsored by the leader of Dream in your heart. Thank you, Heart Alliance. P.S. In order to ensure the fairness of the top 10, there will be management staff watching the competition. P.S. Do you think this is the end of the event? No. 1,000,000 Qijian coins will be released. The group will release a specific message. From 1,500 to 5,000 renminbi. As long as I have it, as long as you come, take it all away. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.